Chapter 1845. Find a chance to kill him, said the great demon king. Heaven's horizon was very strong. He was a peak imperial emperor. Coupled with his racial talent, he won this battle easily. Before leaving the arena, Heaven's horizon looked at the Humanitarian League's seats with disdain in his eyes. Damn it, he's looking at us with disdain. Alliance Master, kill him when you meet him. I hate this kind of look the most, said Yuju. Knight Sorrow didn't reply, but his heart was filled with killing intent. It wasn't just because of Tianyu, but also because of Heaven's Horizon's performance. He had crippled a human imperial emperor. Yi Shang didn't have any relationship with that human sovereign emperor. In fact, he didn't even know him. However, when he saw one of his clansmen get one of his arms ripped off by Heaven's cliffs, beaten to the ground, and stomped on a few times, Yi Shang couldn't suppress his anger. The battle for the first vanguard continued. After 2 rounds, there were still more than 50 people left. At this time, the rules changed again. They no longer fought according to the size of their numbers. Instead, they mixed up the numbers and drew lots. This made it easy to have a cruel situation where one had to fight after the battle. Some participants also used all their unique skills. They used both their clones and their true bodies to fight. Some clones even died. Knight Sorrow fought a human imperial emperor. Knight Sorrow didn't use the golden brick because the other party didn't annoy him. This meant that the other party's moral character was passable. It was Knight Sorrow's turn again. His opponent was the heaven-devouring tiger race's first opponent. I'm Tiger Cold. I have a clone, and so do you. We don't need to use our clones. We'll fight with our true bodies. If we win, we stay. If we lose, we'll leave, Tiger Cold said to Knight Sorrow. Okay, then I'll fight with my true body. Knight Sorrow nodded. Then can you not use that golden brick? It's too embarrassing to be hit by that. As long as you don't use that, regardless of the outcome, I, Tiger Cold, will owe you face. Tiger Cold said. He had seen the fate of the vulture race's imperial emperor. It was too miserable, so he felt a little uneasy. The Humanitarian League's gold brick of humanity punishes evil and promotes good. It is a trial for cultivators with bad conduct. There's nothing wrong with your moral integrity. Our Humanitarian League won't mess around with humanitarian gold bars. You're not bad, so I won't use it, Knight Sorrow said. He had a good impression of Tiger Cold and knew that there was nothing wrong with his moral integrity. Soon after, the battle between the two of them began. Knight Sorrow brandished his reincarnation spear and added his domain onto the reincarnation spear. The profoundness of the Ling Tian spear art was also infused into the spear. Tiger Cold's battle saber was very fierce, but he couldn't suppress Knight Sorrow in terms of strength. The defense of his domain was also ineffective against Knight Sorrow's spear art. Knight Sorrow's compressed domain on his reincarnation spear directly tore apart Tiger Cold's domain. After fighting for a while, Knight Sorrow executed the true dragon destruction art. While affecting Tiger Cold's soul, he executed the spatial crack to block Tiger Cold's dodging route. Then, the reincarnation spear shuttled forward and reached the throat of the constantly retreating Tiger Cold. Tiger Cold was not as fast as Knight Sorrow when retreating head-on. Looking at the reincarnation spear at his throat, Tiger Cold smiled. I've lost. I admit defeat. Knight Sorrow retreated and extended his right arm. The reincarnation spear returned to the holster on his back. This is more interesting. It can be considered a battle between men, Chirue commented on the battle. Then, it was Tianyu's turn to go on stage. Although the battle was very difficult, he still won. After Long Jin went on stage, his opponent was stronger. He transformed into his true form. The 3-kilometer-long golden dragon grabbed a huge golden brick and smashed it. His opponent could only dodge and couldn't fight back. Under such circumstances, he could only admit defeat. How embarrassing. The Golden Dragon King spat out 2 words in the face of Long Jin's performance. He has the chance to be the first vanguard. However, it depends on whether he can defeat Night Sorrow, the Green Rock race, and the elites of the Nine-Tailed Fox race. King Yawu, who had been silent all this time, said. The battle continued. Only a few people had dazzling performances. Heaven's Horizon was very powerful. After all, the Green Rock race was a divine beast with extraordinary talent. Their cultivation was top-notch among the Imperial Emperors, and their talent was top-notch. Not many opponents could withstand them. Green Rock race leader, isn't this member of your race a little too ruthless? If he doesn't train his temperament, he won't be able to go far. Chiroe was somewhat dissatisfied with Heaven's Horizon's methods because he had crippled one of his opponents. Focus on the matter, not the person. Such a temperament is not suitable to be the first vanguard. If he becomes the first vanguard, he will need to be taught first, the Grand Elder said. This is my fault for not teaching him properly, Green Rock race leader Tian Yinsang said. When there were only 20 people left, Night Sorrow and Long Jean met. Haha. Captain, let's go on stage and try. Long Jean went on stage first and said to Night Sorrow with a smile. Alright, let's try. Night Sorrow went on stage. Night Sorrow and Long Jean looked at each other. One had a spear on his back, while the other had a saber on his back. However, neither of them had any intention of taking out their weapons. Long Jin's body flashed, and he threw a punch at Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow knew that Long Jin was one of the overlords of the Golden Dragon race. His body was powerful, but he didn't dodge. His right hand met Long Jin's punch. Bang! With a muffled sound, their fists collided. However, neither of them retreated. Their fists collided, and they both tried to push each other back. However, neither of them moved. As the energy continued to collide, the aura of the two became more and more violent. The shadow of a golden dragon appeared behind Long Jin. The shadow of the golden dragon circled around and roared angrily. Night Sorrow's body glowed with a golden light, and a vision appeared behind him. The sun, moon, mountains, and rivers appeared in the vision, and the words of the Book of Taoism flowed. Golden Dragon Totem, Book of Taoism. This is a rare fight, King Yawu said. Back. Night Sorrow spat out a word. Then, the golden light on his body pulsed and entered his body. He then used his strength to push Long Jin back. I lost, but I still want to test the captain's strength. Roaming Dragon. Long Jin retreated and then soared into the air. Totemic power merged into his body and he pounced. His right hand turned into a dragon claw and grabbed towards Night Sorrow. Yi Shang waved his right hand and used the heaven-covering hand to slap Long Jin's right claw. Then, he charged forward and punched Long Jin's dragon claw that had been hit by the heaven-covering hand. Bang! With a loud explosion of energy, Night Sorrow took a few steps back. Long Jin's body was sent flying. After a somersault, he landed on the ground. However, his feet were already outside the ring. Look at the LR version of Q5 chapter. Smiling, Long Jin walked onto the stage. I know that the captain has a deep understanding of fighting, and is best at fighting techniques. Since the captain has played with me head-on, and I lost, there is nothing to say. After speaking, Long Jin looked at the Golden Dragon King, who was at the referee's table. The Golden Dragon King stood up and said, "You fought well. You have the style of a golden dragon. You didn't lose face when you met a monster. In the future, you will return to Dragon Island once in a while. You are free to do otherwise. Night Sorrow wins this match." The host, Emperor Tang, said. Chapter 1846. At that moment, Night Sorrow felt uncomfortable. His glory shouldn't be built on his brother. Challenge. This was Night Sorrow's challenge to all the cultivators participating in the battle for the first vanguard position. Night Sorrow, quickly go down and follow the rules. Emperor Tang looked at Night Sorrow and said. Night Sorrow was the human race's most likely candidate for the first vanguard position. Therefore, he didn't want anything to happen to Night Sorrow. Men should behave like men. The battle for the first vanguard and the first commander position has been held many times in the 100 Races Alliance Conference. Every time, it's the same old tune. If you want to do something different. This way, the future generations will remember it. The current format is very good. There are still 20 participants. Whoever is capable can go up. The loser will lose the qualification while the winner can apply for a break. The last person standing on the arena will be the first vanguard of the 100 Races Alliance, said King Yawu. Spirit Tree Race, flower without words. I admire your battle strength and courage, but you can't treat the Imperial Emperors as nothing. Let me test your strength. A cultivator went up on the arena. It was Flower Without Words, a peak Imperial Emperor from the Spirit Tree race. He had already defeated a few opponents. Alright, come on. Knight Sorrow's reincarnation spear shook, and his battle-intent sword. Flower Without Words cultivated the sword Dao. His sword was extremely fast, and his domain was a level 5 domain. After Knight Sorrow displayed his spear art, he directly suppressed Flower Without Words. Flower Without Words' domain was ineffective. It was torn apart by Knight Sorrow's spear art that contained a compressed domain. After Knight Sorrow used the True Dragon Destruction art, the Linked Void Extreme Kill annihilated Flower Without Words' longsword. The reincarnation spear stopped at Flower Without Words' forehead. It only took a moment. You lost. Knight Sorrow withdrew his reincarnation spear and took a few steps back. Yes, I lost. No matter how domineering you are, I have no right to question you. Flower Without Words retreated after saying that. Following which, the contenders for the position of number 1 vanguard went up onto the arena one after another. Knight Sorrow did not rest. He brandished his reincarnation spear and moved unhindered on the arena. No opponent was able to withstand his attacks. So what if he sent out a clone? The spatial rend cut and blocked the opponent's doppelganger. The soul-extinguishing slash, together with the True Dragon Destruction art and the Great Emperor reincarnation slash, would result in a fatal blow. The referees in the referee's booth made their moves one after another to stop Knight Sorrow's killing move. Because they were too slow in stopping it, it was easy for injuries to occur. Knight Sorrow, you've won 7 matches in a row. Do you need to rest? Emperor Tang asked. His eyes were filled with admiration. Regardless of the outcome of the battle for the position of first vanguard, the name of Knight Sorrow of the human race would be passed down among the 100 races. With his spear, no one among the Imperial Emperors could match his sharpness. I don't need it. Knight Sorrow shook his head. He had no intention of going down the arena yet. He had not expended much energy. I originally planned for you to go down and rest after you couldn't hold on any longer. I would then come up and fight you at your peak. It seems that no one can force you down yet. A woman walked onto the arena. I'm in a good condition now. Knight Sorrow looked at the coquettish woman from the Nine-Tailed Fox clan and said, My name is Bai Lingling. It's fine as long as you're in a good condition. However, I want to make a bet with you. Bai Lingling said. What do you want to bet on? Knight Sorrow was somewhat puzzled. I want to bet on her. If I win, you can ask Yi Mei to change her name. Our Nine-Tailed Fox clan's surname is Bai, but her surname is Yi. Bai Lingling pointed at Yi Mei in the Humanitarian League's seating area and said. Back then, she didn't have a name and always followed me. She called me Big Brother. Later on, she changed her name to Yi Mei. I'm not forcing this on her. It's her freedom to call herself whatever she wants. No one can bet on it. It's disrespectful. I won't accept this bet. Knight Sorrow refused. She said that as long as you, Knight Sorrow, nod your head, she will change her name. Bai Lingling did not give up. No one can use my brothers and sisters to negotiate conditions. You want me to nod my head? You think too much. If it's something that belongs to me, Knight Sorrow, then I'll accept it. Anything else is off. Night Sorrow was somewhat impatient because Bai Lingling's words were somewhat disrespectful. Damn it. After cursing, Bai Lingling made her move. Her doppelganger appeared. The real body and the doppelganger waved their swords. Sword Chi lingered around the arena. Mist rose up in the arena. Bai Lingling transformed into her beast form. A huge white fox appeared. 9 tails stood up behind her. Each tail emitted a halo of light, forming a domain. Not good. She used the psychedelic domain. It will affect the soul. If one is confused, they will enter an illusion. Once they get lost, they will be in big trouble. Yi Mei, who was sitting in the Humanitarian League seats, stood up anxiously. Everyone else took a wait-and-see attitude. They were afraid that no one would be able to fight Night Sorrow head-on. This was because in a head-on fight, even the Golden Dragon clan's Long Jean was not Night Sorrow's opponent. The others were even worse. The psychedelic domain was a test of the soul. Perhaps it was Night Sorrow's weakness. CD, Original Chapter B, Unspecified Currency Section L. Riff Night Sorrow's soul was his weakness and his willpower was not strong enough, then Bai Lingling would have a chance to win. You want to mess with my mind? But my heart is like the sun and moon. My spear can decide the universe. Open. Night Sorrow's roar came from the mist. Then, a golden light appeared in front of Bai Lingling. Night Sorrow's doppelganger used the Blood Kirin Evil Slayer spear. The virtuous golden light broke through Bai Lingling's psychedelic domain. Not far from Bai Lingling, Night Sorrow's doppelganger used the Blood Kirin Evil Slayer spear, aiming for Bai Lingling's head. Night Sorrow's real body also used the Great Emperor's reincarnation slash, aiming for Bai Lingling's dantian. He lost. His willpower is as strong as iron. Psychedelic attacks are useless. The Golden Dragon King shook his head. Tsang Tian waved his arm and used his energy to imprison Night Sorrow's real body and doppelganger. Then, he pulled them back to the center of the arena. At the same time, he waved his sleeve and cleared the energy from the arena. Bai Lingling's face was pale. She knew that if Tsang Tian hadn't interfered, Night Sorrow would have killed her. She wouldn't have been able to defend herself. You really want to kill me? Bai Lingling turned into her human form and asked Night Sorrow. That's right. I want to kill you. You went against my and Yi Mei's wishes and took her away. Now, you want to use her as a wager? No one can have ideas about my brothers and sisters. If anyone wants to go against their wishes and force them to do something, I, Night Sorrow, will not allow it. Night Sorrow said coldly. Then do you know that if you kill me, you'll become an enemy of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan? Bai Lingling said coldly. If you don't give me and my brothers and sisters face, I don't care what race you are. Night Sorrow said, pointing his reincarnation spear at the ground. Tianyu and the others looked at Yi Mei. There were tears in her eyes. Having a brother like you is the happiest thing in my life. Emperor Tang announced Night Sorrow's victory and clapped his hands. Following Emperor Tang's clapping, all the human cultivators followed suit. The human race needed a cultivator like Night Sorrow. With a cultivator like him, there was no need to worry about the human race's prosperity. Chapter 1847. The referees looked at Sang Skycloud, who closed his eyes. When Night Sorrow had tried to kill Bai Lingling, Sang Skycloud had known that Night Sorrow would seek out Heaven's horizon. Night Sorrow had offended the Nine-Tailed Fox clan for Yi Mei's sake. If he wanted justice for Tianyu, he wouldn't be afraid of the Green Rock clan either. Do you think you're invincible just because you beat a bunch of weaklings? Heaven's horizon rose to his feet and looked Night Sorrow in the eye. What a pig, said the Demon King, laughing. Who knows how many people he's offended with that one sentence? He's even more annoying than the League Lord himself. He's a natural-born taunt. As the Demon King spoke, many of the Vanguard members rose to their feet. They'd lost to Night Sorrow, but they were all emperors and the pride of their clans. Night Sorrow had defeated Night Sorrow with his strength. They didn't like it, but they had to admit defeat. But what did Heaven's Horizon think he was? He'd blasted them with his mouth. That's some bullsh**. He's attacking everyone indiscriminately. Haha. I'm dying of laughter. Pu Luo laughed as well. Sung Skycloud didn't open his eyes. He just took a deep breath. Heaven's Horizon's words had offended far too many people. He could feel the Golden Dragon King's murderous intent. Even Golden Dragon had lost to Night Sorrow. Did the Golden Dragon clan really think they were weaklings? Sung Skycloud, said Kirin, don't you think your clansmen have gone too far? He'll give you an explanation, said Sung Skycloud. Your mouth stinks. I've fought others before, but if they want to drink tea or spar with me, I, Night Sorrow, won't refuse. Opponents and enemies are two different things. I respect my opponents. Night Sorrow looked at Heaven's Horizon. Full marks. With that one sentence, the other clans won't be hostile to Night Sorrow. League Lord, you can, said the Demon King. This is an arena battle. Or I'll kill you. Heaven's Horizon looked at the referees. The Golden Dragon King looked at the other referees. Seeing no one speak, he stood. Not bad. You have the determination to fight to the death. You're a good cultivator. Don't try to convince me. Of course. Heaven's Horizon nodded. Heaven's Horizon, said the Golden Dragon. Night Sorrow. 2. The Golden Dragon King was encouraging Heaven's Horizon at this moment. In fact, it was obvious that he wanted Heaven's Horizon to die. Pu Luo, the Great Demon King, and Lin Piaomiao looked at each other before turning to look at Long Jin. They sympathized with Long Jin because the Golden Dragon King was a huge pit. They didn't know how Long Jin survived. Then let's fight to the death. The winner will decide. Night Sorrow said. Green Rock Clan leader. You don't have any objections? The Golden Dragon King looked at Cloudy Horizon. I don't care. Cloudy Horizon was furious. Not only was Heaven's Horizon lacking in temperament, he was also lacking in intelligence. The Golden Dragon King was clearly telling him to die, but he didn't understand. Fine. Then let's fight to the death. The Golden Dragon King sat down. Golden Dragon King, you're too much of a scammer. Kirin said. Scammer? Who's a chicken or a dog? His whole family is a chicken or a dog. Of course, this king wasn't talking about the Green Rock Clan leader. He has a big mouth. Let's see how strong he is. The Golden Dragon King looked at the Green Rock Clan leader, who had turned his head away. At the same time, he made it clear that he wasn't happy. He wanted Heaven's Horizon dead. The Grand Elder and King Yowu were helpless. The Golden Dragon King was like this. No one could do anything about it. Their grudge isn't new. Back in the Heaven's Horizon, when I wasn't paying attention, he bullied my grandson, Tianyu. Therefore, Night Sorrow wants to avenge Tianyu. Even if Night Sorrow doesn't deal with him, I will skin him alive. Cloudy Horizon said. With Cloudy Horizon's words, everyone knew why Night Sorrow was pointing his spear at the Green Rock Clan. The grudge had existed even before the arena battle. Cloudy Horizon, you're unhappy too. You want to borrow Night Sorrow's hand to avenge your grandson. Kirin said with a smile. At this moment, the atmosphere in the arena was tense. Night Sorrow and Celestial Cliffs looked at each other, waiting for the host, Tang Zong's order. You'll know that in front of absolute speed, you're trash. Heaven's Horizon looked coldly at Night Sorrow. He was confident in his speed. Otherwise, he wouldn't have accepted the death match. Night Sorrow didn't say anything in response. The death match had been approved by the judges. Everything would be decided by strength. Emperor Tang saw King Yowu nod and then announced the start of the battle. Hearing Emperor Tang's words, Heaven's Horizon's body shook. A pair of wings appeared on his back and a battle blade appeared in his hand. The battle blade was his life weapon, formed from his own rock beak. Brandishing the battle blade, Heaven's Horizon charged towards Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow waved his reincarnation spear and blocked Heaven's Horizon's attack, repelling him. In terms of strength, Heaven's Horizon wasn't Night Sorrow's opponent. Retreating after a clash, Heaven's Horizon surrounded Night Sorrow and began to attack. His speed was really fast. One could see a series of afterimages with the naked eye. However, Heaven's Horizon still couldn't break through Night Sorrow's defense. Night Sorrow's reincarnation spear had no openings. He released his domain, and Heaven's Horizon's attack was slowed down when it entered the domain. Let's see how long you can defend. Heaven's Horizon roared and released his doppelganger. Together, he and his doppelganger attacked Night Sorrow. At this time, Night Sorrow's doppelganger also appeared. Heaven's Horizon was his last strong opponent. If he defeated Heaven's Horizon and vented his anger for Tianyu, he would almost be the first vanguard. After Night Sorrow's doppelganger appeared, the domain that was originally only protecting his body shook and burst out in all directions, enveloping Heaven's Horizon within. The domain controlled by the light of virtue was extremely powerful. It instantly suppressed Heaven's Horizon's speed. After reducing Heaven's Horizon's speed, Night Sorrow's original body and doppelganger simultaneously used space rend, separating Heaven's Horizon's original body and doppelganger. Then, the crescent blades of 6 soul-extinguishing slashes were sent towards Heaven's Horizon's doppelganger. Afterward, the original body and doppelganger also approached Heaven's Horizon's doppelganger. Night Sorrow's doppelganger used the Blood Chelan evil punishing spear to execute the true dragon annihilation. His original body held the human emperor's seal in his left hand and arrived above Heaven's Horizon's doppelganger. At this moment, Heaven's Horizon's doppelganger was attacked by the crescent blades of 6 soul-extinguishing slashes. Its soul began to defend itself. Then, it was affected by Night Sorrow's doppelganger's true dragon annihilation slash. Its body stopped in the air and was unable to move. Night Sorrow's original body came down from the top. The human emperor's seal covered Heaven's Horizon's doppelganger's head and smashed it to the ground. Then, the reincarnation spear in his right hand executed the void extreme kill and shot out. It pierced through Heaven's Horizon's doppelganger's chest and nailed it face down to the arena. The arena's ground was incomparably hard. However, Night Sorrow's reincarnation spear could still pierce a hole through it. Night Sorrow's doppelganger executed the true dragon annihilation slash. After affecting Heaven's Horizon's doppelganger, he turned around and intercepted Heaven's Horizon's original body. His original body landed on Heaven's Horizon's doppelganger's back. One of his feet stepped on a wing. Then, the dazzling human emperor's seal in his left hand smashed towards the back of Heaven's Horizon's head. K, forever %5, free to watch E. Little L says K%. Chapter 1848. After the fourth slap, Heaven's Horizon's doppelganger's head was gone. Night Sorrow had an energy shield around him. Otherwise, the blood would have splattered all over his body. Standing up, Yi Shiwen's domain energy crisscrossed and shredded Heaven's Horizon's doppelganger. Night Sorrow's main body joined the battle between Heaven's Horizon and his doppelganger. I'll definitely kill you. Heaven's Horizon's rage soared to the heavens because his clone had been destroyed by Night Sorrow, leaving not even a corpse behind. This isn't the first time you've said this. Today, you will regret being born in this world. Night Sorrow's main body and doppelganger's attacks became more violent. Dragons have reverse scales. Humans are the same. There are some places that cannot be touched. Heaven's Horizon is now the price for touching this reverse scale, the Golden Dragon King said. The battle on the stage was one-sided. Heaven's Horizon could only dodge. He had no power to fight back. I concede. Heaven's Horizon shouted. However, he was interrupted by Night Sorrow's heaven-covering hand. He realized that the gap between him and Night Sorrow was too big. There was no way he could win, so he wanted to admit defeat. You have a chance. Knight Sorrow's main body and avatar unleashed 2 spatial rifts. Then, 6 crescent blades of soul extinguishing / attacked Heaven's Horizon's God Sea. Then, the avatar's blood Shielan evil slaying spear unleashed true dragon destructive spell and a set of control skills. It was useless for Heaven's Horizon to admit defeat. This was a life and death arena. However, Knight Sorrow didn't want to follow his wishes. He wouldn't give him the chance to admit defeat. While Heaven's Horizon was in a daze, Knight Sorrow's main body used the human Emperor's seal to cover Heaven's Horizon's face. Then, he rode on Heaven's Horizon's body and smashed the brick down, knocking Heaven's Horizon unconscious. Then, he took out the ice dragon tendon from the sky-piercing spear and tied up Heaven's Horizon's wings and legs like a pig. You hit my brother and despise the Humanitarian League. You have the right to do so. After tying him up, Knight Sorrow slapped Heaven's Horizon awake. Too violent. At this moment, the vanguard contenders who had fought with Knight Sorrow were relieved that they hadn't triggered Knight Sorrow's berserk mode. A life and death battle. Yi Shang stood up and looked at the referee's stand as he asked, "Is it up to me to decide who lives and who dies?" "Yes. But you still have to think about it," the Grand Elder said. Knight Sorrow sent Heaven's Horizon flying with a flying kick. His body landed in the Humanitarian League seats. Green Rock Clan leader, Knight Sorrow declares that I have no intention of being hostile to the Green Rock Clan. Today, I am here to seek justice for my brother Tianyu. Tianyu, Long Jin, Roy C., you deal with him. Tianyu, you can vent your anger. I don't want to see him again. Roy C. stood up and stepped on Heaven's Horizon's back. He looked at Knight Sorrow and said, "Alliance Master, apart from his grudge with Tianyu, how is his character? If his character is good enough, I'll give him a quick death. He doesn't deserve the word character. If he did, I'd just teach him a lesson. His spirit is black. How many sins do you think he's committed?" Knight Sorrow looked Roy C. in the eye. "Then that's enough. Brothers and sisters of the Alliance, the Humanitarian League doesn't do anything excessive. Punishing evil and promoting good is our mission. But if someone dares commit evil, then he'll be an example. If he doesn't deserve to be a man, then don't be one." Roy C. picked Heaven's Horizon up and left. Sang Yun stood, wanting to say something, but didn't move. But Tian Yunhai of the Green Rock Clan stood. "You'd best behave yourself," Pu Luo said when he saw Tian Yunhai rise. "Pu Luo, what's the meaning of this?" Tian Yunhai growled. "How boring. You want to save someone? If you dare, then I don't mind keeping you company." Pu Luo's fighting spirit soared, and he tossed the golden brick in his hand. "This matter ends here. If this is a fight to the death, then we must abide by the rules. Everyone, sit down." The Grand Elder pointed his golden spear at the ground. Pu Luo gave Tian Yunhai a look of disdain, then sat down. If Tian Yunhai dared to stop Roy C., then he'd smack him in the head. Knight Sorrow clasped his hands around his spear and clasped them in salute. "My apologies. I was a little emotional. Please forgive me." "Not bad," the Demon King said, crossing his arms. "Once you've gone berserk, you're a true gentleman." Emperor Tang asked if Knight Sorrow was resting. After receiving a positive answer, Emperor Tang looked to the remaining vanguard contenders and asked if anyone wanted to take the stage. Emperor Tang asked for a while, but no one came out to fight. Judges, Knight Sorrow is the last vanguard contender standing on the arena. No one wants to challenge him. Emperor Tang clasped his hands in salute to the 5 judges. Since no one wants to challenge him, then Knight Sorrow is the vanguard of this year's 100 Races Alliance. In addition, the Heaven Wasteland Army's first army is now recruiting. The elites who just fought can all sign up. Next are the 2nd and 3rd ranked contenders. They don't need to fight. The 5 judges will decide based on the strength of the battle, the Grand Elder said. The 5 judges were all powerhouses. Their decisions were absolutely fair, and no one would question them. After a while, Chi-E stood up. According to the analysis of the battle situation, in the vanguard battle, other than Night Sorrow, the Golden Dragon race's Long Jean is shockingly strong and has the strength of second place. The third place should have been Heaven's Horizon of the Green Rock race, but unfortunately, he has lost the qualification. The remaining two are Tiger Cold of the Heaven-Devouring Tiger race and Bilingling of the Nine-Tailed Fox race. Both of them are evenly matched, so they won't continue to fight. They are third place. Hearing Chi-Yi's announcement, Long Jean, Tiger Cold, and Bilingling stood up and clasped their hands in thanks. After that, the meeting announced that they would take a break for now. Tomorrow, the battle for the position of first commander would begin. The dust had settled, and the biggest winners were Night Sorrow and the Human Alliance. Forever, free of D and look at the small talk. The words, Human Tao Gold Brick, were imprinted in everyone's mind. Even the emperors were afraid because the Humanitarian League didn't only have Night Sorrow as their emperor. There were also a few other powerful emperors. If they provoked them, they wouldn't have a good ending. The Humanitarian League returned to Night Sorrow's courtyard. A celebration was necessary. After the banquet was set up, Ruisi, Long Jean, and Tianyu returned. You guys dealt with him? Yu Zhu asked. Yes, Ruisi is very good. With his help, the Celestial Cliffs made a woman and she was taken by a wild boar. Then, she was thrown down the wall of the heavenly desolate city to die on her own, Long Jean said. Why didn't you just kill him? Night Sorrow looked at the three of them. Then, Ruisi explained the reason. The seventh elder and the Green Rock race's leader appeared. The seventh elder asked if they could give Heaven's Horizon a chance. After consulting with Tianyu, Long Jean, and himself, the Green Rock race's leader exiled him. He has no backbone and can't survive. He'll defect easily. Night Sorrow shook his head helplessly. Haha. Let's not care about him. It's so satisfying to be taken by a wild boar. Let's see who dares to look down on our Humanitarian League again, Yu Zhu said with a smile. Chapter 1849. King Yawu wasn't the only one who came. The Grand Elder was there too. Martial Uncle, Great Elder. Yi Shang bowed in greeting. The others also cupped their hands in greeting. You did well today, King Yawu said after sitting down. I was too angry today and did things too rashly. Please forgive me, Uncle, Night Sorrow said. King Yawu shook his head. He didn't blame Night Sorrow. He felt that it was good to follow one's heart. A man should be ambitious and dare to fight against the world. Very good. You raised the morale of the human race and proved that the human race has a successor, Grand Elder said. He was also very happy. Night Sorrow made tea for King Yawu and the Grand Elder. Don't worry about those small fries. Just kill them directly. It's not fun to let them cause trouble. Also, consider the reputation of all parties. If there's anyone looking for trouble with you, just kill them first, King Yawu said. The Great Elder told Yi Shang that there were some follow-up matters to be taken care of, and then he left with King Yawu. Not long after King Yawu left, Qi Rui brought Lin Yun and Lin Yu to congratulate him. Then, he handed Lin Yu to Night Sorrow because Lin Yu wanted to develop the Humanitarian League. Night Sorrow didn't refuse. The Blood Qilin race was kind enough to him. After Qi Rui left, the Golden Dragon King came. He still had a long face as if someone owed him money. N62 permanent Y free equals O fee look small. After sitting down, the Golden Dragon King glanced at Night Sorrow. I really couldn't tell that you were such a ruthless person. Long Jean, work hard and defeat this kid. Uncle, I've worked hard these years. Besides, brothers fight side by side, Long Jean said. How disappointing. Night Sorrow brat, you and the Humanitarian League are pretty good. I'll leave the Night Sorrow with you. If you encounter anything you can't handle, just go to the Dragon Island and shout. Don't bother this king with small matters. After giving Night Sorrow a look of disdain, the Golden Dragon King disappeared from Night Sorrow's courtyard. Night Sorrow shook his head helplessly. The Golden Dragon King was also a troublemaker. If it wasn't for the Golden Dragon King, Heaven's Horizon would have been really difficult to kill. The rules of the arena were within the rules, and even if he were to kill, the referee would have stopped him. As they chatted, everyone looked at the Great Demon King and asked if he had any confidence in the competition for the position of First Commander tomorrow. The Great Demon King put down his wine cup and patted his chest. Everyone had more confidence in the Great Demon King. His situation was different from Night Sorrow's. Night Sorrow was fighting his way up with a lower cultivation level. He was fighting above his cultivation level, which required battle strength. The Great Demon King had passed the 6 tribulations of the heavenly Tao. When he fought against ordinary emperors, he was fighting his way down. Besides, before he passed the Emperor's tribulation, he was already one of the top emperors. Therefore, it wasn't difficult for him. Long Jin asked about the situation of the god-slaying team. He missed that group of brothers. After Yu, Tianyu, and Yimei were taken away, Auntie Fei and Lord Long Xian were also taken away. This put a lot of pressure on the brothers of the god-slaying team. Therefore, they are now working hard to raise their cultivation level. To be honest, they are under a lot of pressure to be brothers with us, Night Sorrow said. Long Jin, Tianyu, Yimei, and the others nodded. They knew that the brothers of the god-slaying squad were all eager to be strong. They didn't want to fall behind the pace of the battle. This was something that they had all deeply felt. When Yishang had been fighting outside, they had also been anxious as they watched. At this moment, the various clans of the 100 Races Alliance were having a meeting. The main thing was to emphasize that they shouldn't provoke the Humanitarian League led by Night Sorrow. The Green Rock clan had a villa in Tianhuang City. At this moment, Tsang Tian was roaring inside. The other Green Rock clan members didn't dare to make a sound, including Elder Tian Yunhai. The Green Rock clan respected the strong. Why was Tsang Tian the clan leader and Tian Yunhai not? Because of the difference in strength, Tsang Tian could sit in the referee's seat. Tian Yunhai could only sit in the Green Rock clan's seat. You're not that strong, but you've learned how to be a tyrant? You're good at internal battles, but what about external battles? You're not good enough, you're not smart enough, and you're not strong enough either. What a disgrace. Tsang Tian pointed his finger and scolded. If any of you dare look at my grandson with disdain again, I dare you. After cursing for a while, Tsang Tian finally calmed down. This time, an elder of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan had come. Bai Zizhen. Lingling, you're being a bit rash. The patriarch said not to force Yimei. If you do this, she'll dislike you. Bai Zizhen looked at Bai Lingling. I just want Yimei to feel a sense of belonging. We, the mighty Nine-Tailed Fox clan, have a human surname. That doesn't make sense, Bai Lingling said quietly. Let's put that aside for now. Also, don't feel superior. Humans are the leader of the 100 races. Although their talent for cultivation is uneven, excellent cultivators have always existed. Right now, the strongest members of the 100 Races Alliance are humans. The Lord of Tianhuang City and the Lord of the Divine Capital are both almighty figures who maintain the stability of the 100 races. Let's talk about Night Sorrow. He's only 200 years old and has become an imperial emperor. Moreover, he's an imperial emperor who can fight above his level. There has never been such a genius in the history of our clan. Bai Zizhen looked at Bai Lingling and said. She could understand Bai Lingling's mentality. Bai Lingling wanted to contribute to the clan and make her presence known so that the clan would value her more. Bai Lingling nodded. Although she was unwilling, Bai Zizhen had made it clear. She couldn't talk about it anymore. Bai Zizhen then talked about the competition for the first commander. For this 100 Races Alliance conference, the Nine-Tailed Fox clan had high hopes for the first vanguard. According to their investigation, the human race didn't have any outstanding imperial emperors. Of course, they didn't know Night Sorrow because Night Sorrow wasn't an imperial emperor a few years ago. As for the first commander, the human race's fiend god ranking list was a reference. The top few on the fiend god ranking list were too strong. Lin Piaomiao, the great demon king, and Fen Tian were all outstanding imperial emperors. It was too difficult to get the first commander from them. The 100 Races Elders Guild also reported about the restrictions for the first commander. Bai Zizhen was a guild elder and knew the current level of Lin Piaomiao, the great demon king, and the others. Although Lin Piaomiao had withdrawn from this competition, with the great demon king and Fen Tian participating, it was as difficult as ascending to the heavens to snatch the first commander from the human race. Bai Lingling and the others bowed. They knew the level of Lin Piaomiao, the great demon king, and Fen Tian. Also, Lingling, report to the first commander of the Heaven Wasteland Army later, Bai Zizhen said. Bai Lingling looked at Bai Zizhen in confusion. The Nine-Tailed Fox clan had members in the Heaven Wasteland Army, but they were all ordinary clan members. An elite of the clan like her wouldn't be arranged to serve in the army. There are some things you don't know. Do you know why this 100 Races Alliance conference was held in advance? Because of the need to compete with the Demon Wing clan, the selection this time is to enter the reincarnation battlefield. That was the battlefield where the 100 Races Alliance and the Demon Wing clan fought in the previous reincarnation. It should be said that it was the battlefield between the human race and the Demon Wing clan. That was where the human emperor and the demon ancestor fought, Bai Zizhen said. Chapter 1850. That was the 100 Races Alliance's victory. The human race was the leader. Too many elites of the 100 races had died, so there were many remnants. It's an opportunity to enter the reincarnation battlefield. Our Nine-Tailed Fox clan also had an ancestor who died there, so we should enter if we can, Bai Zizhen said. If I want to join the first army of the 100 Races Alliance, then I have to work according to Night Sorrow's wishes. Bai Lingling was somewhat reluctant. Night Sorrow is the Merit Emperor. Is it shameful to work under him? Do you think you're nobler than those in the Humanitarian League? If you can't think about your clan, then go back now. After hearing Bai Lingling's words, Bai Zizhen could not suppress her anger and immediately glared at Bai Lingling. Bai Lingling trembled. This was the first time the good-tempered Bai Zizhen lost her temper in front of her clan. Seeing that Bai Lingling was silent, Bai Zizhen snorted coldly. Only a few people know about this. Why did the Golden Dragon King leave Long Jin in the Humanitarian League? Is Ancestor Green Rock also willing to put his grandson in the Humanitarian League? It's all for this matter. Open the Spacetime channel and send the highest cultivation level into the reincarnation battlefield. If it's an emperor, then the Spacetime channel will not be stable, so this time the first army of the Heaven Wasteland Army will be in charge. The Grand Elder and King Yowu were talking in the Grand Elder's small world about the reincarnation battlefield. They did not tell Night Sorrow because Night Sorrow had to enter the Heaven Wasteland Tower for a period of time. They did not want to distract Night Sorrow during this time. About opening the Spacetime channel, we'll have to trouble you, Grand Elder, King Yowu said to the Grand Elder. #P version J equals first 8 shots, it's nothing. The two city lords can't have any mishaps. They have to be in their best condition at all times because we don't know when the demon-winged clan will attack. The black dragons are also a hidden danger. The Grand Elder nodded. In the past, I've always considered the feelings of the Golden Dragon King and the Cyan Dragons, so I didn't attack them ruthlessly. This time, when they attacked the Blood Chelan clan, they obviously have no bottom line. I can tolerate it the first time, but I can't tolerate it the second time. Later, I will talk to the Golden Dragon King and make a trip to the Azure Dragons. Last time, Brother Tran Hung also didn't give the Azure Dragons face, King Yowu said. King Yowu said that the last time the Azure Dragons came to ask Tran Hung why the members of the other races of the 100 Races Alliance couldn't be listed on the Celestial and Demon ranking. In the end, they were slapped away by Tran Hung. The Azure Dragon King didn't know Tran Hung's identity, so he asked the 100 Races Alliance's Council of Elders to make a decision. The human race directly rejected it, which made the Azure Dragons feel embarrassed. Therefore, in recent years, the Azure Dragons didn't participate in some of the 100 Races Alliance's activities. The Grand Elder nodded. Things had to be resolved. The Golden Dragon King was the leader of the dragons, so the Black and Azure Dragons also needed to be discussed with him. Night Sorrow and the others didn't know about this situation and were celebrating. Night Sorrow took the first vanguard position and obtained the opportunity to enter the Wasteland Tower. The Humanitarian League also became famous. Everyone was happy and drank a little more wine. The next day, a group of people came to the martial arts arena in high spirits. A day ago, not many members of the 100 Races Alliance knew Night Sorrow. When they saw the Humanitarian League seats, they snorted and looked down on them. However, it was different now. When they saw Night Sorrow and the others, they all nodded in acknowledgement. The Humanitarian League was strong and had many backers. Night Sorrow's cultivation was low, but his potential was huge. In addition, in the last stage yesterday, Night Sorrow stood on the arena and challenged more than 20 contenders for the first vanguard position. His domineering aura was admirable. Tiger Cold cupped his hands at Night Sorrow, and Flower Without Words also nodded in acknowledgement. Night Sorrow cupped his hands in return. He had a good impression of these people. To be able to cultivate to the monarch realm, one's temperament was very important. Of course, there were also people with extreme temperaments and couldn't bear the pressure, or their temperament changed after some achievements. They couldn't be generalized. Heaven's Cliffs was an example. 13th brother, you look so handsome wearing Night Moon's king battle armor. Yi Mei smiled. Hee hee. Yesterday, I gave that 9-tailed fox clans by Lingling a hard time. You won't be troubled when you go back, right? But don't worry, 13th brother, will trouble whoever makes things difficult for you. Night Sorrow turned around and patted Yi Mei's shoulder. Yeah. I'm not afraid of trouble. Yi Mei smiled. Brother, you're so good to Yi Mei. Lin Yu said with a smile. You call me brother. If anyone dares to bully you, I'll greet them with my fists. Night Sorrow waved his hand at Lin Yu. The battle for the first commander position began under the supervision of the judges and Emperor Tang. The battle this time was completely a performance by the Great Demon King and Fen Tian. The two of them sent golden bricks flying everywhere, and no one could stop them. This made the contenders for the first commander position in the 100 Races Alliance shudder in fear. Whoever was hit by the golden bricks would feel pain. The Great Demon King and Fen Tian were strong. One of them had passed the 6 tribulations of the heavenly law, while the other had passed the 5 tribulations of the heavenly law. When there were only a dozen people left, the Great Demon King and Fen Tian met. The two of them bumped their golden bricks together. Fen Tian smiled. It's meaningless to fight anymore. Rock, scissors, paper. The Great Demon King and Fen Tian began a new round of rock paper scissors. Knock down half of the remaining ones for me. The rest is yours. Fen Tian, who lost the rock paper scissors game, said with a smile. All right, I'll help you get your share. The Great Demon King nodded. Boring. I was hoping that they would clash. They suddenly stopped playing. The Golden Dragon King was very dissatisfied. They are brothers. They are playing together to kill the enemy, not each other. Chi Rui said. Why didn't Lin Piamia fight? The Golden Dragon King asked. She's married. After a woman gets married, she calms down and looks down on these fights. They are all members of the Humanitarian League. As long as the first commander is in the Humanitarian League, it's enough. The Grand Elder said. Who? Who is so lucky? The Green Rock Patriarch was very interested. He wanted to know who Lin Piaomia was married to. Chi Rui lifted his chin and pointed at Night Sorrow. It's Night Sorrow. My Blood Chilan clan also owes them a big favor. A few days ago, the Black Dragons attacked the Blood Chilan mountain while I was saving my daughter. At that time, Elder Lin was present. She risked her life to hold back the 2 Black Dragons' elders. At that time, she was only a clone. It wasn't easy for her to hold back the two black dragon's elders. Chi-Rui said. I see. Chi-Rui, I'm sorry. The Golden Dragon King cupped his hands at Chi-Rui. I don't blame you. However, I can't let go of the black dragons. They really have no bottom line. They caused trouble when I was saving my daughter and almost made me suffer the pain of losing my daughter. This has crossed my bottom line. I hope you can understand, Golden Dragon King. Chi-Rui said. The Golden Dragon King looked up at the sky. There were some things he couldn't understand. He went to find the Black Dragon King, but the Black Dragon King refused to see him. Chapter 1851. There was a reason for the formation of the 100 Races Alliance. It was because of the ambition of the Demon-Winged Clan. The Demon-Winged Clan was not native to the celestial realm. They were outsiders. The environment of their world was harsh. It was not as good as the celestial realm. It was not as peaceful as the celestial realm. Generation after generation, they had always wanted to overthrow the rule of the celestial realm and turn the celestial realm into the Demon-Winged Clan's world. The native races of the celestial realm naturally did not allow it. Therefore, they had been fighting for countless years and several reincarnations. This was the crisis of the 100 races of the celestial realm. Therefore, resisting the Demon-Winged Clan was the consensus of the 100 races of the celestial realm. But now? Although the Black Dragons did not explicitly express that they were on the same side as the Demon-Winged Clan, they had always cooperated with the Demon-Winged Clan. It was as if they were a nail in the 100 Races Alliance. The Black Dragon Clan's actions made it very difficult for the various branches of the Dragon Clan to deal with themselves. The Green Dragon Clan and White Dragon Clan did not participate in the 100 Races Alliance conference this time because they were caught in the middle and were in a difficult position. The Golden Dragon King had to come because he knew that the other dragons would not come. If he did not come, it would mean that the dragons had left the 100 Races Alliance. Now that Chirui mentioned this, the Golden Dragon King could no longer remain silent. Golden Dragon King, I am very happy that you have come to attend the 100 Races Alliance conference. Your coming is a sign of your attitude. Your attitude is enough, King Yawu said. I am the Golden Dragon King of the Celestial Realm. Therefore, my beliefs are unwavering. It's just that I am unable to control my subordinates. For many years, the various branches of the dragons have been autonomous. There are some things that I am not clear about. The Golden Dragon King shook his head. It's better to go and find out more. Because we all belong to the 100 races of the celestial realm, even if the black dragons have gone overboard these years, we have not been ruthless. However, they have gone overboard this time. Chirui is our old friend. Don't we feel bad about this situation? King Yawu said. The Golden Dragon King sighed and patted Kirui's shoulder. Give me some time. We need to get to the bottom of this. Chirui clenched his fists. After a moment, he nodded. He knew that the Golden Dragon King was in a difficult position, and since he had spoken, he had to give him face. The Great Demon King on the stage was in high spirits. He also started a group battle without leaving the stage. No one could defeat him. He was now at the 6th tribulation of the Heavenly Tao. Fighting against ordinary emperors was like bullying. This guy is having a good time. He's bullying us. Yu Zhu said. To be able to cultivate to such an extent within a minor epoch, that's his ability. Others have no choice but to accept it, said Pu Luo. What are you laughing at? Reese asked. What are you laughing at? Look at the eyes of the other elders. They are very envious that we can sit here. Who doesn't envy us for having a human Tao gold brick in our hands? Pu Luo took the gold brick and tossed it up and down. Pu Luo tossed the gold brick in a very cool manner. Long Jin was interested. He took out his large gold brick and played with it, causing many people to look over. Long Jin, this isn't for slapping people. It's for smashing people. If the target doesn't deserve to die, you have to take it easy. You'll be smashed into a meat patty if you throw it out, Lin Piaomiao said with a smile. That's a little awkward. Long Jean put away the large gold brick. Everyone looked at Long Jean in disdain. They also glanced at the Golden Dragon King. This was because the large gold brick was made by the Golden Dragon King. The Great Demon King stood on the stage with a weapon in one hand and a gold brick in the other. No one went up because it was too cruel. The gold brick was aimed at the head. No one went up. Emperor Tang announced that the Great Demon King would be the first commander of the Heaven Wasteland Army. King Yawu stood up and emphasized the importance of the Heaven Wasteland City and the significance of the 100 Races Alliance's existence. He wanted all cultivators to have the spirit of improvement. The Heaven Wasteland City would give you a big stage based on your ability. He also hoped that the young cultivators of various races would interact more. The meeting was then adjourned. The competition for the first commander and first vanguard of the 100 Races Alliance had come to an end. However, the people of various races did not leave. The Heaven Wasteland City was dominated by the human race, but other races also participated. They all had seats in the Council of Elders and also had their own encampments. They could not go back immediately after coming to the Heaven Wasteland City. This kind of scene could also broaden the horizons of the younger generation. Night Sorrow and the others returned to the courtyard, which seemed a little small. After returning to the courtyard, Pu Luo slammed the table and said with some dissatisfaction, "You're so inefficient. At this time, you still haven't arranged a decent residence for us. The first vanguard has to call friends. Isn't this place shabby? Pu Luo, you're too unkind. You're the law enforcement elder of the Heaven Wasteland City. Can't you arrange these things? You even slammed the table. Who are you trying to scare?" Qin Shenjia appeared in Night Sorrow's courtyard. "It's true that I'm the law enforcement elder, but I'm not in the law enforcement period right now." "Isn't Lu Qi in the law enforcement period now? Can't you do this?" Pu Luo said. "You don't know how busy 7th Elder is during the 100 Clan Alliance conference, so he asked me to make arrangements for this matter." "Night Sorrow, let's go and take a look at the new residence," Qin Shenjia said. Point. F***CK. I'm satisfied. Anything is fine. If you're not satisfied, then we'll return to the Divine Martial City. Our Night Moon Villa is also comfortable, Pu Luo said. "Pu Luo, you're really a good-for-nothing. It's fine if you don't help, but you're dragging us down. Besides, when has our Heaven Wasteland City mistreated capable and meritorious members?" Qin Shenjia tapped the ground with his cane. "Our Alliance Master killed 5 Demon Wing Emperors and even swindled tens of millions of Sacred Spirit Stones and Divine Ash Stones from the Demon Wing clan. Isn't this meritorious service?" "You've all forgotten about it," Pu Luo muttered. "You have to understand that it's us, not you. You didn't do anything either. Pu Luo, I see that you don't even blink when you betray others." Qin Shenjia then walked out of the courtyard. She had already arranged a new residence for Night Sorrow. The new residence was much more impressive. It was several times the size of the previous courtyard. Not only in terms of size, but also in terms of layout and architecture, it was very classy. "Thank you for your trouble, Sect Elder Qin." Night Sorrow cupped his fists to express his gratitude. Qin Shenjia looked at Pu Luo and said, "I have to. You have no good people around you. If I drag you to the divine capital to live, everyone will lose face." Pu Luo turned his head to the side and refused to meet Qin Shenjia's gaze. "Misty thanks Sect Elder Qin on behalf of my husband." Lin Misty bowed to Qin Shenjia. Qin Shenjia used to take good care of her. Last time, she also went to Qin Shenjia for Night Sorrow's matter. Qin Shenjia didn't refuse at all. "Misty, you're too polite. There's nothing wrong with you and Night Sorrow. It's just that someone has a bad heart." Qin Shenjia glanced at Pu Luo one more time and left. "You guys continue chatting. I won't be accompanying you today. The enforcement elders of the 100 Clans Elder Council have a meeting. I have to go," Pu Luo said. Something big? Great Demon King asked. Chapter 1852. Even if something big happens, it's just a battle. It's not a big deal. Ruisi, Yuju, prepare the wine. The Great Demon King shouted. Night Sorrow smiled. It might be a complicated matter, but it was simple for the Great Demon King. In fact, it was just a battle. Long Jin, Tianyu, congratulations on your rapid rise and entering the Imperial Emperor realm. Night Sorrow poured a cup of wine and raised it to Long Jin and Tianyu. Yi Mei, the Nine-Tailed Fox clan's talent is not inferior to the other Divine Beast clans. Why didn't you enter the Imperial Emperor realm? Tianyu asked. I'm different from you. I encountered some problems after I was sent to the Nine-Domain world. My body was destroyed and I was reincarnated. Fortunately, the Silver Fox had the Nine-Tailed Fox bloodline, so it didn't affect me too much. This time, after returning to the clan and entering the ancestral land, I mainly purified the bloodline and focused on building my foundation. Yi Mei explained her situation. Night Sorrow understood a little. When he first met Yi Mei, a silver fox had just given birth. Yi Mei was indeed the silver fox's child. Everyone has different lives, but the results are good. Yi Mei may have been unhappy in the past, but from now on, just live happily. Night Sorrow said. Yi Mei nodded. Having 13th brother in this life is the happiest thing for me. By the way, I have a sister who is especially good to me. Can I bring her over later? Of course. Night Sorrow nodded. While they were talking, Lin Yun arrived at Night Sorrow's place. Princess, are you worried about Lin Yu? Don't worry. She's fine here. Night Sorrow invited Lin Yun to sit down and said. No, I'm not worried. I'm here to congratulate you. Also, I told my father that the Blood Scale clan's clan leader is more suitable for second brother. I plan to join the Humanitarian League in the future. I'm not bad. Lin Yu said with a smile. Sure. I warmly welcome you. Night Sorrow said with a smile. After interacting with Lin Yun for a period of time, Lin Yun gave Night Sorrow a good impression. She had a high status and was the eldest princess of the Blood Qilin clan. However, she didn't put on any airs and didn't have an arrogant aura. Now, all the little sisters are ganging up on our Humanitarian League. That's good, but League Master, we need to collect materials. We can't skimp on the Human Dao gold bricks. I don't have many materials to refine the Human Dao gold bricks, Pu Luo said. That won't be a problem. Whatever you need, I'll go back to my family and look for it, Lin Yun said. After that, Tianyu, Yi Mei, and Long Jin all said that they could find the materials. Night Sorrow left and returned to the encampment to call her sisters. She was very happy that Night Sorrow had agreed to take care of her sister and join the Humanitarian League. A moment later, Yi Mei brought a woman in white to Night Sorrow's new residence. Sister Meng Meng, let me introduce you. Yi Mei pulled the woman beside her and introduced her to Night Sorrow and the others. The woman in white was called Bai Meng Meng, the granddaughter of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan's great elder. Bai Meng Meng cupped her hands and greeted Night Sorrow and the others. I originally wanted to pay a visit. I planned to join the Heaven Wasteland Army's first army, but my cultivation isn't the top among the Imperial Emperors, so I'm not confident, Bai Meng Meng said after sitting down. I'm not very clear about the details of the Heaven Wasteland Army's first army. I need to take over and understand it. However, I think that it shouldn't be a problem for a mid-level Imperial Emperor to join the Heaven Wasteland Army. Night Sorrow said. If you can join, then join. If you can't, then we'll wait, Yi Mei said. This is very important. I must try my best. If I join in the future, I might miss the reincarnation battlefield. Bai Meng Meng shook her head. Reincarnation battlefield? Night Sorrow and the others didn't understand. Bai Meng Meng looked at Night Sorrow and the others. After hesitating for a while, she told them about the news she received from Bai Zizhen. I see. If there's a chance, then fight for it. Sister Meng Meng, don't worry. If it doesn't go against the principles, there won't be a problem if you want to join. Knight Sorrow nodded at Bai Meng Meng. Bai Meng Meng stood up. Alliance leader, just call me Meng Meng. Who cares about the battlefield? I still say the same thing. No matter how big the matter is, it's nothing more than a battle. Who here is afraid of battle? The great demon king said. After chatting for a while, Knight Sorrow led the people to distribute the living quarters. The new residence was luxurious. Not to mention 10 people, even 100 or 1,000 people would not be crowded. Knight Sorrow and Lin Piaomiao were naturally in the attic at the core of the courtyard. Knight Sorrow and Lin Piaomiao talked for a while. He felt that no one knew more about the news and understanding of this world than King Yawu. Don't ask for now. When it's suitable for us to know, Martial Uncle will tell us. There must be a reason why he hasn't told us yet, Lin Piaomiao said. How's your recovery? The black dragons are too despicable. I won't let this matter rest. Knight Sorrow looked at Lin Piaomiao and asked. I've already fully recovered. I'm in peak condition now. Lin Piaomiao smiled. After resting for a night and working hard to have children, Knight Sorrow started practicing his spear techniques. Spear techniques were already a part of his life. While Knight Sorrow was practicing his spear, King Yawu came. After stopping his practice, Knight Sorrow invited King Yawu to sit down. Martial Uncle is going back to Yawa Mountain. If you have anything to say, just tell the Grand Elder. If you need anything or can't deal with anything, just go to Yawa Mountain. King Yawu said. He was planning to leave Tianhuang City. Thank you, Martial Uncle. I'd like to ask about the reincarnation battlefield. Knight Sorrow said. You're quite well informed. Originally, Martial Uncle and the Grand Elder wanted to tell you later, mainly because they didn't want you to feel pressured when entering the Tianhuang Tower. It's fine if you know, Martial Uncle will tell you. King Yawu didn't find it strange. After all, Knight Sorrow was surrounded by elites from various races and domains. The reincarnation battlefield was in Nirvana Ocean. It was where the human race led the 100-race alliance to fight the demon-winged race in the previous reincarnation. It was where the human emperor and the demon ancestor fell. A large number of elites from the 100-race alliance and the demon-winged race died. Update Y% most DH on X hashtag the Tianhuang City Lord was proficient in prediction. He knew that the reincarnation battlefield would appear in Nirvana Ocean. Of course, the demon-winged race might know as well. Therefore, no matter what the situation was, the demon-winged race couldn't get the upper hand. It's just a war with some restrictions. Previously, the demon-winged race opened a space-time tunnel and sent 7 emperors over. Why were they emperors? Because the energy contained in the emperors' bodies was too strong and would cause the space-time tunnel to collapse. This time, it's a competition between the 100-race alliance and the demon-winged race. We don't ask for any opportunities. We just need to work hard. However, we can't let the demon-winged race obtain any benefits. Besides, the items from the previous reincarnation are very important. Therefore, you have to go, King Yawu said. Chapter 1853. Time, there may not be enough time. You will be in the Heaven Wasteland Tower for a year. The reincarnation battlefield will appear in 1.5 to 2 years, so you can decide on the specific arrangements yourself. Cultivating the death attribute is not bad. King Yawu nodded. Then I will make arrangements according to the situation. Knight Sorrow nodded. Okay. Also, when you feel that you have reached a certain level, you can study your master's sword Dao. However, I feel that you should stabilize it first. Your spear Dao foundation has just been formed. You can study it after you stabilize it. It will be beneficial for you. King Yawu reminded Knight Sorrow. Knight Sorrow nodded. He knew that this was priceless advice. I am very assured about your situation. Once you have taken care of the matters at hand, you can return to Yowu Mountain to cultivate. King Yowu left after giving another reminder. Not long after King Yowu left, the Grand Elder, the 7 elders, and Pu Luo arrived at Knight Soro's residence. After sitting down, the Grand Elder told the Great Demon King and Lin Piaomiao that the Great Demon King was officially selected as the Grand Elder's candidate and Lin Piaomiao as the Disciplinary Elder's candidate. The two of them now had the authority of the Disciplinary Elder. Knight Soro, after meeting you, my official position has been getting higher and higher. Is this luck? The Great Demon King said with a smile. The higher the position, the greater the responsibility. Be more steady in the future. You can't be like before. Once you are steady, you will mature. The Grand Elder looked at the Great Demon King and said, I understand. The Great Demon King nodded. He could ignore the words of others, but the Grand Elder was someone he respected. Piaomiao, I am very assured about you. Seeing you is like seeing the future of the human race. I am very happy, the Grand Elder said. Then the Grand Elder told him about the Heaven Wasteland Army. The Heaven Wasteland Army had a total of 31 armies. Each army had 300 people and 31 senior captains. The first vanguard was the first senior captain. The 3 territories were unified, which meant that there were 10 commanders. However, the first territory was not under the command of any of the commanders. The first vanguard had the right to mobilize on its own. That's not bad. Our 13th brother has always been invincible in the war. If he's under someone else's command and the commander isn't smart enough, then there's no way to fight the war, Tianyu said. Knight Soro, you don't have to worry about that. Later, the 7th elder will take you to the first army's encampment. Also, the first army will recruit some people, but you have to know that the first army will not accept anyone below the Imperial Emperor level, said the Grand Elder. Don't. Although Yi Mei is a 3-star overlord, she definitely has the strength of an Imperial Emperor. Knight Soro looked at Yi Mei and said, I'll give you 3 spots, no more than that. In the army, you have to obey orders, the Grand Elder said. Knight Soro nodded. He knew that this was the rule. It was already good enough to have 3 slots. After the Grand Elder and Lu Qi left, Knight Soro and the others talked. If I can make the decision to recruit people, Meng Meng won't have a problem. Yi Mei, your 13th brother will definitely bring you along. Knight Soro looked at White Meng Meng, then patted Yi Mei's shoulder and said, 13th brother, I'm now a 3-star overlord. If I go back to the clan and cultivate in seclusion later, I might not need this slot, said Yi Mei. That's fine. Don't feel pressured. I'll take care of everything, Knight Soro nodded. Then I'll go back to the clan and cultivate for a while and see if there's a chance, said Lin Yu. Lin Yu's cultivation was lower than Yi Mei's, but she was still a 2-star overlord. This was the dominance of the Divine Beast clan. Even if she was not awake, she was still cultivating. Knight Soro sighed. He thought of his brothers. He didn't know how his brothers in the God-slaying team were doing, but the threshold for the first army of the Heaven Wasteland Army was too high. There were only 2 emperors in the God-slaying team, let alone imperial emperors. Forever and Free Read and Novelle, 13th brother, our brothers will all rise. We just need some time. Seeing Knight Soro's eyes drifting, Tianyu, who had fought side by side with Knight Soro, knew what Knight Soro was thinking. Knight Soro nodded. He knew that the members of the God-slaying team were already working very hard. It was just that the pace was too fast and everyone couldn't keep up. After chatting for a while, Yi Mei and White Meng Meng left. Lin Yun also sent Lin Yu back to cultivate. It was really important to enter the reincarnation battlefield. Everyone wanted to seize the opportunity. On the 3rd day, the Grand Elder came to look for Knight Soro and the Great Demon King. He wanted to send them into the Heaven Wasteland Pagoda. Pu Luo, Lin Piaomiao, please take care of the Humanitarian League. Knight Soro nodded to Pu Luo and Lin Piaomiao. He left with the Great Demon King and the Grand Elder. Only the original body could comprehend the artistic conception and the truth of heaven and earth. However, when the original body comprehended, the doppelganger had to protect the original body. Therefore, the great demon king and Night Sorrow both went with their original bodies. There were 5 towers in the Heaven Wasteland city. Only the middle tower was called the Heaven Wasteland Pagoda. Normally, people could enter the Heaven Wasteland Pagoda, but only into the ordinary space. The true inner space of the Heaven Wasteland Pagoda would only open after the 100 Races Alliance conference. Only the most talented cultivators were qualified to enter. After entering the Heaven Wasteland Pagoda, Night Sorrow originally thought that they would go up. He didn't expect them to go down. After walking for a while, Night Sorrow saw 2 bronze doors wrapped in energy at the end of the underground stairs. In a while, Night Sorrow, you will enter the left one. Great Demon King, you will enter the right one. After entering, you will have a year's time. After a year, the interior will explode with energy and it will no longer be suitable for survival. Therefore, you have to come out. In addition, everyone who enters the Heaven Wasteland space has different experiences and gains, said the Grand Elder. Night Sorrow and the Great Demon King nodded. They had already obtained some information from Lin Piaomiao. Lin Piaomiao had entered the Heaven Wasteland space twice. She had obtained the first Vanguard and the first Commander. Therefore, she didn't plan to enter this time. She planned to give the opportunity to the Great Demon King and Fentian. At the Emperor rank, there was almost no one who could defeat the Great Demon King and Fentian. The first commander would definitely be one of them. Fentian's strength was lower than the Great Demon King, and his luck wasn't as good as the Great Demon King's. The Great Demon King's strength was stronger than Fentian, but he gave Fentian a chance. However, Fentian lost in rock paper scissors. There was no other way. This opportunity belonged to the Great Demon King. Night Sorrow, the Great Demon King, and the Grand Elder waited. After a moment, an energy phantom appeared. After the phantom appeared, it struck out a few hand seals and the bronze doors opened. The conditions to enter the Heaven Wasteland space are very harsh. Therefore, there is only one opportunity every 1 billion years and 2 billion years. This opportunity is highly valued by the various clans of the 100 Race Alliance. Therefore, after the 2 of you enter, you have to work hard. Besides, it's not like there isn't any danger inside. There are only 2 outcomes after entering the Heaven Wasteland space. Either you walk out standing or fall inside, said the new energy phantom. Night Sorrow and the Great Demon King nodded. Both of them understood that opportunities and risks were directly proportional. Chapter 1854. Night Sorrow and the Great Demon King looked at each other. They had thought that they would be able to take care of each other after entering. However, they had to separate now, which meant that they had to enter different places. Be careful. Don't let the journey of opportunity turn into the path of the devil. The Grand Elder reminded Night Sorrow and the Great Demon King. Alliance leader, be careful. The Great Demon King's body flashed as he entered the bronze door on the right. Night Sorrow also entered the bronze door on the left. Upon seeing Night Sorrow and the Great Demon King enter, the Grand Elder nodded. This is the cultivation path of our human race's ancestors. I hope it will be of help to you. The existence of the Everlasting Tower was mysterious to ordinary cultivators. However, some of the higher-ups of the 100 Race Alliance knew about it. The Everlasting Tower had existed in the previous samsara. It was a protective Dharma treasure of a human race almighty. Now, it was suppressing a space called the Everlasting Space. The Everlasting Space was originally the internal space of the Everlasting Tower. However, the Everlasting Tower was damaged and the space was no longer within the Everlasting Tower. Instead, it needed the Everlasting Tower to suppress it. The Everlasting Space had followed that human race almighty for a very long time. It recorded the growth and experiences of that almighty. The Everlasting Space was actually a trial space. After Night Sorrow entered, he realized that it was a gray space. The energy that seeped up from the ground had a familiar feeling. It was the power of merit. Night Sorrow had heard King Yawuz say that the human race's providence was like a dragon. The dragon's head was at Yawa Mountain and the claw of slaughter was the everlasting space. After sensing it, Night Sorrow realized that it was different. The power of merit here was different from that of Yawa Mountain. The power of merit that erupted from Yawa Mountain was peaceful and mighty. However, the power of merit here was more domineering. It had a vast and mighty aura that could crush everything. There was no hurry. Night Sorrow planned to take a look at the everlasting space first before finding a suitable place to cultivate. The spirit chi here was rich enough. As he moved forward, Night Sorrow discovered a spiritual body. It was a spiritual body that was completely composed of energy. The energy contained in its body was at the mid-level Imperial Lord level. While Night Sorrow was observing, the spiritual body launched an attack. Sword techniques, movement techniques, and soul attacks. After the battle began, Night Sorrow discovered that this spirit body was different from the spirit body in Evil Punisher Land. The evil spirits in the Evil Punisher Land were very strong, but they only fought instinctively. However, the soul bodies in this Heaven Wasteland space had even more threatening attacks. After they attacked, they would use one ultimate technique after another. This was a display of their ultimate techniques. Opportunity. This was a fortuitous encounter. If one had the ability to comprehend, they would be able to comprehend an absolute art from their spiritual bodies. After studying it for a while, Night Sorrow realized that these ultimate techniques were not suitable for him, so he killed the soul and continued forward. As Night Sorrow advanced, one soul after another appeared and charged at Night Sorrow. After the victory, Night Sorrow did not gain any resources. After the soul was killed, the energy returned to Infinite Wasteland. Night Sorrow understood that the process was the harvest. The ultimate techniques that these spiritual bodies used in battle had energy trajectories that could be seen through at a glance. It was easy to understand and learn. On the fourth day, Night Sorrow witnessed a palm technique. It was executed by a peak Imperial Lord spiritual body. When the palm technique was waved, it had the ability to stir up the power of heaven and earth. The palm technique's energy contained the power of a domain. It had the effects of control, confinement, and time acceleration and deceleration. Night Sorrow was interested in this ultimate technique. He sent his clone to fight while his main body slowly studied and deciphered it. You forever free of Z fees to C small, a say % in order to delay the battle and have more time to observe. Night Sorrow did not use any of his ultimate techniques. He only defended and let the spiritual body attack. Then, he would learn. After watching for a while, Night Sorrow understood some things. This spiritual body's palm technique was mainly of the time attribute. The earth, water, wind, and fire attributes were supplementary. The earth attribute formed the earth attribute space. The water, wind, and fire attributes strengthened and stabilized the space. The time attribute slowed down the flow of time, achieving the effect of control and confinement. Night Sorrow's main body started to ponder. He did not have the earth, wind, water, or fire attributes. However, the significance of these four basic attributes in this ultimate technique was to form and stabilize space to support the later attacks. Since he had the spatial attribute, it was sufficient for him to use the space attribute as a supplement. After that, he could use the time attribute to control, confine, and speed acceleration and deceleration. After confirming it again and memorizing the entire process of this spiritual body's attack, Night Sorrow made a move to scatter this spiritual body. Then, his main body entered the clear sky pagoda and started to study. Night Sorrow had the void heaven covering hand. His attack power was decent. However, if he wanted to hit the target had to receive the attack or use spatial cracks and soul attacks to affect the target. If he used this spiritual body's ultimate technique as a reference, he would be able to attack directly in the future without any drawbacks. After studying for a while, Night Sorrow discovered that this ultimate technique was different from the ones he had mastered before. The lower attribute came first, forming the control attribute. Then, the time attribute was added to form the ultimate move. In the past, Night Sorrow's ultimate techniques had the highest attribute first, followed by the support attribute. There was no need to copy all of them. Night Sorrow started to cultivate his own palm technique. Night Sorrow's path of cultivation was to fuse the attributes. First, he would activate the space attribute to envelop the opponent. Then, he would use the time attribute to slow down the opponent's speed and achieve control. Then, he would use the void heaven covering hand to attack. After cultivating in the clear sky pagoda for a month, Night Sorrow's new ultimate technique was thoroughly integrated. It was the void energy that controlled the space attribute. The space attribute came first, disrupting the laws of heaven and earth, the will, and the momentum of heaven and earth. Then, it would be the attack, using the void attribute to complete the ultimate move. After cultivating the new ultimate technique, Night Sorrow changed his way of thinking. He added the void attribute to the space attribute, strengthening the envelopment and control. The ultimate move's attribute was the destruction attribute. With the support of the void attribute, Night Sorrow's new ultimate technique's control was even stronger. Night Sorrow even felt that time had stopped. Everything had stopped, and even time had stopped flowing. However, it was only for a moment. His realm was not enough, and his strength was not enough. Night Sorrow understood that his strength was not enough. If his mastery of the attributes was deep enough, then he would be able to stop time, and then proceed to kill. Of course, that was under the premise that the opponent could not affect or block his ultimate move. If the opponent's domain was strong enough, then this time deceleration would be extremely slow, and the power of the ultimate technique would be weakened. Very good. After cultivating this ultimate technique, this trip to the heaven wasteland space was not in vain. Night Sorrow muttered in a low voice. He exited the clear sky pagoda and continued forward. On the way, Night Sorrow practiced his new ultimate technique while understanding the situation of the soul body using the ultimate technique. Night Sorrow was very gratified. He recalled King Yawu's words. All the ultimate techniques were created, and they were most suitable for the creator. When the later generations practiced them, they would definitely not have the power of the creator. Currently, this ultimate technique that he had named the Desolate Nirvana Palm belonged to him. Chapter 1855. Look at, on D, edition chapter IE section hashtag, Desolation's hand was one of Night Sorrow's ultimate skills that he relied on to survive. He had a deep attachment to it. Later on, as his cultivation and realm increased, he had other options. Night Sorrow did not use Desolation's hand much. Now, Desolation Nirvana Palm was based on the power of time. The only difference was that it was different from Desolation's hand in terms of power and effect. In the past, Desolation's hand only had the ability to accelerate time. Desolation Nirvana Palm was different. Its ability was very comprehensive. It could accelerate and decelerate time. Whether it was acceleration or deceleration, it was not as powerful as time stop. In the moment of time stop, the enemy would not be able to resist. However, because his cultivation was not high enough and his realm was low, Night Sorrow's Desolation Nirvana Palm could only produce time stop for a moment if the opponent could not withstand it. If the opponent's domain was strong, the effect might not be obvious. As he continued to cultivate and improve, Night Sorrow would study new ultimate skills. If it was not new, Night Sorrow would use it to hone his Desolation Nirvana Palm. In the previous process, Night Sorrow had seen an ultimate skill that was more suitable for him. It was a space-time defensive ultimate skill. When the opponent was defending, their body would be in another space. Night Sorrow's attack energy would mostly miss. A part of it would be blocked and melted by the space barrier. When faced with such a situation, Night Sorrow would send out a clone to fight. His main body would study and analyze. This space-overlapping defensive ultimate skill was indeed powerful. After studying for half a day, Night Sorrow finally understood this space-time ultimate skill. This ultimate skill could enter a different space when in danger or when one did not want to face it head-on. It would greatly weaken the opponent's power. Night Sorrow named this move Space-Time Realm. The sudden appearance of a different space was created by him using spacetime Tao. After killing his opponent and arriving at a mountain peak, Night Sorrow stopped moving forward and began to cultivate spacetime realm and Desolation Nirvana Palm. Desolation Nirvana Palm. Night Sorrow did not only use it for attacks with his left hand. The spear art with his right hand also had the essence of this spear art. As for the defensive ultimate skill, Spacetime Realm, he was getting more and more proficient. Night Sorrow's body was sometimes clear and sometimes blurry. Night Sorrow's body was switching between the real world and the spacetime realm. Feeling that he was almost done cultivating the ultimate skills, Night Sorrow continued moving forward. After more than a month of training, his realm and cultivation did not increase his combat strength. In Nine's world, Night Sorrow's 9-domain world, 9 Nirvana Palm was cultivating and researching new ultimate skills. A month and a half later, Night Sorrow discovered a spiritual body that controlled a supreme soul technique. There was a rhythmic halo around its head that constantly pulsed, annihilating any attacks that came at the deity C. The mode of this soul defense ultimate skill was relatively simple. There was no worldly influence involved. Night Sorrow learned it easily. Night Sorrow was not worried about his own soul defense. He had the 9 region origin beads and the green lotus jade bracelet to protect his soul. They were both heavenly Tao artifacts. If the opponent's cultivation was not much higher than his, even if they had soul attack ultimate skills, they would not be able to break through his defense. However, this soul's soul defense ultimate skill was very strong. Night Sorrow's soul extinguishing slash could not break through the halo's defense. It could also isolate some of the effects of ultimate skills on the soul. Night Sorrow naturally would not give up on such an ultimate skill. Even if he did not need it, he could pass it on to his wife and children. As he moved forward, the battles continued. However, Night Sorrow did not cultivate the ultimate skills that the soul's soul used. Not cultivating them did not mean that they were not helpful to Night Sorrow. He used the advantages and disadvantages of these ultimate skills to strengthen his own. There were almost no supreme attribute souls here. There were no supreme attribute ultimate skills. What he needed to do was to draw inferences and strengthen his own ultimate skills. Of course, this required comprehension. With countless ultimate skills evolving before his eyes, Night Sorrow's own ultimate skills were becoming more and more perfect. 3 months later, Night Sorrow had traversed the entire space. It wasn't that he hadn't encountered any danger. Once, he had been surrounded by dozens of souls. Because of his strong combat ability and the Empty Realm's defenses, he had the true Dragon of Destruction mantra, the Desolation of Time Palm, and the Great Emperor's Reincarnation slash. After 3 months, Night Sorrow had traveled through most of Desolation space. He decided to stabilize and improve his realm. He had already chosen the location. It was the place where he had encountered danger. There had once been many soul bodies gathered there because the energy impact there was intense. Moreover, there was a rich power of virtue erupting there. Just like at the Yawa Mountain, Night Sorrow sat down cross-legged and used his own time acceleration. He began to absorb energy and power of virtue to cultivate and improve his realm at the same time. After the 100 Races Alliance conference in Desolation City, many elites did not leave. They all signed up to join the Heaven Wasteland Army, mainly from the First Army. Tiger Cold and Flower Without Words came to see Night Sorrow, as well as other Imperial Emperor elites. Without Night Sorrow, they could not do anything. The Grand Elder also announced that the First Army of Heaven Wasteland Army would recruit members in a year. Lin Piaomia became a candidate for the Disciplinary Law Enforcement Elder and had more things to do. She returned to the 9 Domains world and met Night Sorrow's 9 Domains doppelganger twice. She asked about Night Sorrow's situation. She only felt relieved after knowing that Night Sorrow was very stable. There were also many people who wanted to join the Humanitarian League, but they were all rejected. The Humanitarian League did not accept just anyone. The Humanitarian League needed Night Sorrow's approval and Night Sorrow did not dislike them. This was the consensus of the Humanitarian League except for Night Sorrow. First of all, Night Sorrow was the League leader and Night Sorrow was the virtuous emperor. They could distinguish a person's moral integrity. The Humanitarian League did not care about the fact that they would not be able to grow if they did not recruit members. In terms of strength, the Humanitarian League was definitely strong. Under the Humanitarian League, there were forces under the Devil Realm's Great Demon King, Misty Dynasty, Puluo Island, Rain Bamboo Mountain, and Ruisi Country. Fen Tian also had his own guards. These forces were all led by the Humanitarian League. If any force competed with the Humanitarian League in terms of strength, they would be badly battered. The Humanitarian League controlled some of the atmosphere in the celestial realm. The spies under the forces were operating. If they found people with bad morals, they would deal with them. If the forces under them were not strong enough, the Humanitarian League's elders would take action. When Puluo, Lin Piaomiao, and the others took action, even the elders of the 100 Races Alliance could not withstand it. The days of cultivation were day and night. Night Sorrow was used to such days. He knew that the stronger one was, the higher the chances of survival. Entering the reincarnation battlefield was a life and death battle. The 100 Races Alliance, the Devil-Winged Clan, the Black Dragons, and the Flying Serpents would also enter. These forces were like fire and water, so a life and death battle was inevitable. Chapter 1856. This tyrannical power was different from the tyrannical power of the energy attribute. The tyrannical power of the energy attribute had many sides. It could have negative elements such as killing, oppression, and so on. The tyrannical power of virtue was a kind of might and pressure, an upright and vast impact. Night Sorrow knew that this was the result of absorbing the Fate Dragon's Slaughtering Claw's power of virtue. As the name implied, the Fate Dragon's Slaughtering Claw focused on battle. Hence, it was different from Dragon Head Yawa Mountain's. Dragon Head Yawa Mountain's Slaughtering Claw. Night Sorrow's cultivation had risen to intermediate sovereign emperor, and the time energy around him had increased. It was now more than 5 times, less than 6 times. Time slipped away as Night Sorrow cultivated. During closed-door cultivation, Night Sorrow's mind became one, and he forgot about everything. His cultivation and realm rapidly rose. After changing the environment and sensing the different power of heaven and earth, Night Sorrow entered a state of selflessness. As for danger, Night Sorrow did not worry. As long as danger descended, he would wake up. In the blink of an eye, 8 months passed. Night Sorrow had been in the heavenly desolate space for nearly 11 months. Night Sorrow woke up from his meditation because the energy aura in the heavenly desolate space had become berserk. After waking up from his meditation, Night Sorrow first checked his body. After checking, Night Sorrow smiled. During this closed-door cultivation, his spacetime attribute had increased by 2 points. His comprehension of the power of heaven and earth had reached 57%. His comprehension of the void attribute had also increased by 2 points. However, these 2 points were very significant. He had advanced from a 4-star emperor to a 5-star emperor. Just like the void attribute, he was an intermediate sovereign emperor. As for the destruction attribute, he comprehended it the fastest. He comprehended it by 3 points and was just 1 step away. As long as he could feel it, he would become a 5-star emperor. The reason why Night Sorrow was able to comprehend the destruction attribute so quickly was because the place where he was meditating was where the slaughter claw of the Fate Dragon was located. It focused on slaughter and destruction, so Night Sorrow was able to comprehend more of the destruction attribute's grand momentum of heaven and earth. Night Sorrow did not know how long he had been in the heaven wasteland space after communicating with the 9 domain doppelgangers. 11 months had passed, and Night Sorrow had to head out. There was still 1 month left, and he had to leave. The Grand Elder had said that in the infinite wasteland space, only this 1 year was stable. After that, it would become violent, forming a space that was not suitable for living. Night Sorrow was very satisfied with what he had gained in the past 11 months. His cultivation base and cultivation base had increased. He had researched 3 types of lost techniques. Additionally, his power of virtue had increased. Knight Sorrow could feel that his power of virtue was no longer the same as when he had first become a merit emperor. The power of virtue contained within his body had become much thicker. Feeling very excited, Knight Sorrow's body trembled. The energy in his body surged, and golden light shone brightly. Then, he let out a long roar. He wanted to vent. Opening his arms and roaring into the sky, Knight Sorrow felt very comfortable. After Knight Sorrow finished roaring and was about to leave, the mountain he was cultivating on shone with golden light. Then, a golden light shot into the sky. After the golden light stabilized in the air, it began to flow. It was the flow of words. He recognized them. Knight Sorrow recognized those words. It was the Tao Te Ching. The golden light shone in the air. The flowing words were the words recorded in the Tao Te Ching during the human Tao ceremony. Knight Sorrow soared into the air and approached the golden light. He saw the core of the golden light. It was a golden book, and the words were flowing out from the book. After taking a few steps in the air, Knight Sorrow reached out to grab the golden book. As Knight Sorrow reached out, the golden book retreated, not giving Knight Sorrow a chance to grab it. Light of virtue, power of virtue. Knight Sorrow looked at the golden book and understood. The golden book was filled with the power of virtue. If he used the power of virtue, he might be able to get close to it. As soon as he thought of this, Knight Sorrow wrapped his left hand in the power of virtue and reached out to grab the golden book. This time, the golden book didn't resist and was grabbed by Knight Sorrow. After taking a look, Knight Sorrow realized that he didn't see wrongly. It was the Tao Te Ching. Knight Sorrow didn't understand why the Tao Te Ching would appear here. Could it have appeared in the previous reincarnation? While Knight Sorrow was thinking, the Tao Te Ching directly turned into energy and entered Knight Sorrow's body. When it reached Knight Sorrow's dantian, the golden words flowed in Knight Sorrow's dantian. Knight Sorrow was stunned. Could it be that the Tao Te Ching had become a spirit under the nourishment of the Dragon of Fate? Knight Sorrow tried to mobilize it, but the Tao Te Ching didn't move. It's not moving. Knight Sorrow took out the human emperor's seal and activated it with the power of virtue. At this moment, the Tao Te Ching in his dantian moved and the golden words flowed to the human emperor's seal. The words at the bottom of the human emperor's seal shone brightly and received a strong blessing. At this moment, Knight Sorrow understood that this book had become a supreme treasure under the nourishment of the human race's Dragon of Fate. Knight Sorrow withdrew the power of virtue. He originally thought that the golden words of the Tao Te Ching would remain in the human emperor's seal, but in fact, the golden words retracted into his dantian along with the power of virtue. Not using the human emperor's seal to strengthen his body. Knight Sorrow didn't expect this situation. However, this wasn't important. The golden words, the Tao Te Ching, already belonged to him. Without any delay, Knight Sorrow rushed to the exit of Tianhuang space. He had gone very deep this time, so he couldn't stop when he rushed back. He had to hurry. There were still battles on the way back, so there was no need to hold back. Knight Sorrow used his various ultimate skills without restraint. When the power of virtue strengthened the domain, Knight Sorrow realized that the power of the domain increased again. The soul of a 4-star monarch, which was an early-stage imperial emperor, was directly crushed. This was because there were golden words flowing in his domain. With the support of the golden words, the power of Knight Sorrow's domain increased by 30%. Knight Sorrow was so excited that he couldn't control himself. His domain was too powerful now. Knight Sorrow took out a jar of wine and drank a few mouthfuls. He suppressed the joy in his heart and continued to fly toward the exit of Tianhuang space. At this moment, at the exit of Tianhuang space, the great demon king was anxiously pacing back and forth. He had been out for a few days and accompanied the Grand Elder to wait for Knight Sorrow, but there was no news of Knight Sorrow. Don't be impatient. Don't be anxious. There's still time. There's great danger in Tianhuang space, but can it be greater than the 5 imperial emperors of the Demon Wing clan working together to kill it? The Grand Elder glanced at the great demon king and said. The great demon king didn't say anything, but he was still worried. There wasn't much time left, so Night Sorrow started to rush back at full speed. If there were soul bodies blocking his way, Night Sorrow wouldn't care. His new ultimate skill, Spacetime Realm, wasn't just for defense. It could also increase his speed. Night Sorrow was like a stream of light, constantly flying in the blossoming space. Chapter 1857. The Great Elder and the Great Demon King's eyes were filled with astonishment because Yishan's body carried a pressure that they had to face head-on. It could even be said that they couldn't even think of resisting. Night Sorrow greets the Grand Elder. Great Demon King, why are you looking at me like I'm a ghost? Night Sorrow asked the Grand Elder. Nothing. Seems like you've gained a lot this year. The Great Demon King didn't say why. He knew that even Night Sorrow didn't realize it. Yes, it's great. How are you doing? Night Sorrow asked. Absolute Arts. I learned 2 sets of Absolute Arts. As for the Fate Energy, it's not something I can touch or see, the Great Demon King said. The Grand Elder didn't leave. He let Night Sorrow and the Great Demon King return first. After the Great Demon King and Night Sorrow left, the Tran Hung appeared. He waved his hand and formed a few seals to seal the bronze door. After sealing the bronze door, the Tran Hung turned around and looked at the Grand Elder. Are you surprised? Actually, it's nothing. He used to be the Emperor of Merit, but he was only exposed to the peaceful side of the power of merit. Cultivating in Yawu Mountain strengthened this point. After entering the infinite wasteland space, he came into contact with the claw of slaughter of the Dragon of Destiny and absorbed the righteous and domineering side of the power of merit, so he naturally carries the aura of a superior, but it is also very difficult to understand why it is so strong. It's strange that the Emperor can give me pressure. The other feeling is hard to describe. The pressure doesn't just come from the power of merit. The Grand Elder nodded. The Tran Hung didn't say anything. After thinking for a while, he clasped his hands together and formed a seal. Then, a special aura appeared on his body. It was mysterious and unfathomable. After a while, it dissipated. City Lord, what did you discover? The Grand Elder asked. The Human Tao Ceremony in the Book of Tao. After the last reincarnation war, he obtained the Human Tao Ceremony that was lost along with the Emperor Brush. It seems like the human race is really going to rise. Tran Hung was elated. Human Tao Ceremony? The Merit Emperor, the Human Emperor's Seal, and the Human Emperor Ceremony. When he reaches the Emperor realm, he will be the Human Emperor of the human race? The Grand Elder's face was filled with shock. It doesn't matter whether he is an emperor or not. In the future, we should respect his opinion. He is about to become the virtuous sovereign. His words and actions are in accordance with the principles of the heavenly Tao. He is also recognized by the Human Tao Ceremony. He will only bring prosperity to the human race, Emperor Chen said. The Grand Elder nodded. He knew that there was some news that hadn't been made public. Once it was made known that Night Sorrow had the Human Emperor's Seal and the Human Emperor's Ceremony, he would dominate the human race. Some things are enough for us to know. Keeping a secret is also to protect him. He has great potential, so we have to give him time. Tran Hung left these words and disappeared into the entrance of the Heaven Wasteland space. Night Sorrow and the Great Demon King came out of the Heaven Wasteland pagoda and started chatting. When he learned that Night Sorrow had cultivated 3 absolute arts, the Great Demon King's eyes were filled with disdain. He felt that it was already very impressive that he had cultivated 2 absolute arts in a year. However, Night Sorrow had one more than him. When they arrived at the new mansion, Night Sorrow saw the other members of the Humanitarian League. You're back. You're finally back. I was bored to death when you weren't around. Pu Luo slammed the table and said when he saw Night Sorrow and the Great Demon King enter the mansion. Lin Piaomiao asked about Night Sorrow's situation. She was very happy to know that everything was going well. Night Sorrow told the others that he would be away for a while. He planned to cultivate the death attribute so that his domain would have room for further development. Leader, if you want to cultivate, it's enough for your original body to go. Leave your doppelganger behind. We can't be careless about the matter of the Heaven Wasteland Army. The elites of the 100 Races Alliance are all waiting to join. If you don't appear, how can they play? Pu Luo looked at Night Sorrow and said. All right, then I'll go cultivate and leave my doppelganger to handle these trivial matters. Night Sorrow nodded. After drinking tea and chatting for a while, Night Sorrow and Lin Piaomiao left the Heaven Wasteland City. They went to the Divine Capital City for a while before returning to the Misty Dynasty. Night Sorrow told Datura about his plans. Datura expressed that she wanted to go too. She was born beside the Yellow Spring River, so it was best for her to cultivate there. Night Sorrow looked at Lin Piaomiao and asked for her opinion. Lin Piaomiao herself hoped to help Night Sorrow's other wives, so she naturally agreed. The three of them arrived at the Evil Punisher land, opened the seal, and entered. There were only a few evil spirits in the Evil Punisher land. Night Sorrow and the other two didn't kill them, because these few evil spirits could still provide some fire of life for their descendants after they evolved. The three of them went directly to the Yellow Spring River and set up a big tent. From now on, everyone will cultivate individually, Night Sorrow said. Lin Piaomiao and Datura nodded. Datura, needless to say, she had a lot of room for improvement. Lin Piaomiao was the same. She had just passed the 6 tribulations of the Heavenly Tao, so her cultivation had a lot of room for improvement. When her cultivation stagnated again, she could go for the 7 tribulations of the Heavenly Tao, or even the 8 or 9 tribulations of the Heavenly Tao. After checking the underworld stone in his storage ring, Night Sorrow flew above the underworld river. He planned to go all out and enter the underworld river to cultivate. He had the Merit's immortal body and the leakless true body, so he could protect himself in the underworld river. With this thought in mind, Night Sorrow descended into the Yellow Springs River after using his energy to protect his body. As Night Sorrow waved his sleeves, the floating skeletons were swept away. Night Sorrow's body sank into the river. See Chapter 5 of the #PositiveX% edition. As soon as Night Sorrow fell into the Yellow Springs River, he sensed countless pure death energies attacking his protective shield. As his body descended, Night Sorrow discovered a large protruding rock in the Yellow Springs River. He landed on the rock and sat down, feeling the impact of the death energy. Lin Piaomiao and Datura watched from the side of the Yellow Springs. This guy is really daring, Lin Piaomiao muttered. I plan to give it a try too, Datura said. Ah Luo, don't be rash. Night Sorrow has the Merit's immortal body and he has cultivated his body. He might be able to withstand it. If you go in, you will be in danger. The energy in the Yellow Springs River is domineering. Once it attacks your soul and your Tao heart is lost, you will really fall into the cycle of reincarnation. After hearing Datura's words, Lin Piaomiao quickly stopped him. Piaomiao, if others did this, they would be rash. But I'm not. I'm Datura. I cultivated using the flower. When I grew up, I absorbed the energy of the Yellow Springs River. The Yellow Springs River in the world of reincarnation is not as vast as the one here. It's not as violent. But my cultivation is different from before. I'm already at the Emperor realm. Datura looked at Lin Piaomiao and said. What you said makes sense. But I'm still a little scared. Lin Piaomiao's eyes were filled with worry. I'll have a plan. If it doesn't work, I'll come out. Datura had already made up his mind. His body flashed and he flew towards the Yellow Springs River. Chapter 1858. Night Sorrow's plan this time was to cultivate the death energy into his own body and not rely on the underworld stone in the future. The underworld stone was an external object after all. Using external objects to exert strength would never be as solid as using one's own strength. After feeling the impact of the death energy in the underworld river on his body for a while, Night Sorrow put some of the death energy into his energy shield and tried to refine and absorb it. After refining for 2 hours, Night Sorrow found that it was not working. After refining the death energy, its attribute was dissolved. Like a rootless duckweed, the death energy could not take root in his body. Under such circumstances, Night Sorrow could only carry out his earliest plan, which was to put the underworld stone into his dantian one by one and refine them first. After refining, he would shatter them and leave the death energy seed in his body. Then he could slowly develop it. In order to save time, Night Sorrow added time energy into his energy shield and started to accelerate time. Then he refined the underworld stone. Beside the underworld river, seeing that Night Sorrow and Datura were not in danger, Lin Piao nodded in relief. She felt that everything was so incredible. In the past, humans and practitioners of other races did not dare to go near the underworld river for fear of being hurt by the energy of the underworld river. But now, Night Sorrow and Datura both directly went into the underworld river to cultivate. This was absolutely unprecedented. At this time, Datura was like a fish in water. Although there was a little pressure, the general trend of the world regarding the death attribute was so clear. She calmed down and started to cultivate. In the past, Datura was one of the few people who stood at the top in the world of samsara. When everything in the celestial realm appeared in front of her, she felt the pressure. Night Sorrow rose quickly and the gap between the two was getting bigger and bigger. She, who had the heart of an expert, could not accept it. Now that there was a chance, she naturally rose up. Lin Piao took out the octagonal exquisite pagoda and went in to cultivate. Other than the addition of a tent and a pagoda by the Yellow Spring River, everything else was the same as before. No one knew about the changes in the two people in the river and the misty forest in the exquisite pagoda. Night Sorrow used 10 days in the real world and nearly 2 months in a time acceleration to refine 3 underworld stones. In addition to the original one, he now had 4. At this time, his dantian could no longer hold any more. Feeling that it was about time, the void energy in Night Sorrow's dantian surged, shattering all 4 underworld stones. Then, he compressed the 4 balls of energy into a ball and refined it a second time. The refinement of the Yellow Spring Stone was to build a foundation. It was not like the refinement of the Yellow Spring Stone would complete the refinement of the death energy. The two were different concepts. Night Sorrow first refined the underworld stone so that the energy within the underworld stone would be tainted with his aura, so that it would not become violent and hard to tame. After compressing the death energy within the underworld stone into a corner of his dantian, Night Sorrow began to refine and control it bit by bit. He wanted to be able to use this energy as if it was his own arm. The Yellow Spring River's water flowed down without stopping. Night Sorrow and Datura were rapidly improving in the river. Night Sorrow was improving, while Datura was evolving rapidly. It was very difficult to control a different attribute. In the blink of an eye, 5 months had passed. Night Sorrow had been cultivating in the Yellow Springs River for more than 2 years. Finally, he had absorbed the incomparably pure death energy within his dantian. Finally, there was another attribute. The foundation of the death attribute had been formed. Night Sorrow had his own death attribute. The next step was to strengthen and improve. Night Sorrow stopped the operation of the leakless real body. While comprehending the rules of the death attribute, he also improved the death energy within his dantian. In the Heavenly Emperor City, the Heaven Wasteland Army's first army had gathered. The Grand Elder, the Great Demon King, the 7 Elders, Lin Piao, and a few law enforcement elders brought the members of the 100 Races Alliance who wanted to join the first army to the Heaven Wasteland Army's martial arts field. Today was the day that Night Sorrow took over the first army of the Heaven Wasteland Army. It was also the day that the first army recruited people. The first army of the Heaven Wasteland Army had a long history and was the glory of the 100 Races Alliance. All the members were emperors. Currently, there were about 200 people. After the people had gathered, the Grand Elder announced the appointment of Night Sorrow as the captain of the first army. Night Sorrow walked to the platform in front of the martial arts field and glanced at the sergeants of the first army. The Heaven Wasteland City appointed me as the captain of the First Army. I'm only halfway to this position because I can only be the captain of the First Army because you're convinced and obedient, Knight Sorrow said after looking at the sergeants. Very good. All the sergeants of the First Army are absolutely obedient and the best sergeants. However, the new captain must also convince us. Otherwise, you can go back to where you came from. A middle-aged man with a saber on his back walked out of the First Army. That should be the case. Then let's set the rules. You can choose anyone to come up to this arena. As long as you can beat me down, I'll turn around and leave. I won't touch the First Army again, Knight Sorrow said. Straightforward. My name is Zhuodong, and I'm the deputy captain of the First Army. I already know that Knight Sorrow has won consecutive battles in the arena. Even if you can't hold your ground in the First Army, I'll still approve of you. However, please don't look at the sergeants of the First Army as if they're a bunch of losers. We've been through killing and those who compete for the First Army are just kids. Who wants to come up to the arena? Zhuodong turned around and glanced at the sergeants of the First Army. Bang! The 200 sergeants of the First Army all took a step forward. None of them were afraid of the battle. They all had the confidence to fight against Knight Sorrow. You're the most suitable person to be the captain of the First Army. However, since I'm here, I can't go back like this. Come on. Knight Sorrow flashed and stood on the arena in front of the martial arts field. He stretched out his right hand and took the Blood Kylan evil spear in his hand. Genuine head hair, interesting. The Great Demon King said. Everyone knew that it was not easy for Knight Sorrow to take over the First Army. Otherwise, the Grand Elder, the 7 Patriarchs, and other law-enforcing elders would not have come here. You. Zhuodong pointed at a sergeant standing in the front. Excuse me. The sergeant pointed at by Zhuodong roared and leaped up. He held his saber with both hands and slashed at Yishang. His blood qi rippled in all directions. It was obvious that he was a cultivator who had been through many life and death battles. Chapter 1859. Zhuodong pointed at another sergeant. The sergeant cupped his fists at Knight Sorrow and released his realm. Then, he brandished his saber at Knight Sorrow. He was much more cautious than the first one. Realm suppression. Knight Sorrow thrust his Blood Kylan evil spear at the sergeant. Wherever the spear passed, the sergeant's realm was directly torn apart. Just as their weapons were about to collide, Knight Sorrow's body blurred. Then, he flashed to the side of the sergeant and hit him in the chest with his Blood Kylan evil spear. It was exactly the same. This soldier was the same as the first soldier who went up on stage. He was struck in the chest and sent flying out of the arena. What's going on? This guy is much stronger than he was a year ago. Looking at Knight Sorrow, Yuzhu was surprised. A year ago, Knight Sorrow had been very strong, but he hadn't been able to defeat his opponents so easily like now. Anyone else? Knight Sorrow looked at the sergeants of the First Army of the Heaven Wasteland Army and asked. Very strong. Let me have a try. Zhuodong did not ask other sergeants to come to the arena. He knew that it was useless for other sergeants to come to the arena. They were not at the same level as Knight Sorrow. Yishan's 2 spear strikes sent 2 opponents flying. It was too casual and too easy. Good. Knight Sorrow nodded. He felt that Zhuodong and the sergeants of the First Army were not bad. Zhuodong had to fight because he had to give the other sergeants an explanation. Zhuodong held his long sword in his right hand and went to the arena. He nodded at Knight Sorrow and said, "Make your move." Knight Sorrow raised his left hand and threw out a palm. A giant hand made of energy appeared and pressed towards Zhuodong. *7 Yong Si Jio read novels for free. It was the Desolation Palm. The giant hand made of energy stirred up the wind and clouds and the momentum of heaven and earth. Zhuodong found that he could not retreat. The surrounding space was confined and the flow of time had changed. He could only resist with his sword. Zhuodong wielded his sword with his right hand and punched with his left hand. It took him several punches and several sword strikes to break the giant hand. Seeing that Knight Sorrow didn't chase after him, Zhuodong cupped his fists and said, "Captain, your strength is amazing. Zhuodong admires you." Zhuodong knew very well that if Knight Sorrow had pursued him, he would have been defeated immediately. Knight Sorrow had only used one palm to save his face. As Zhuodong cupped his hands and called him captain, the other sergeants also cupped their hands to Knight Sorrow. "Since you've approved, then I, Knight Sorrow, will say a few words and set our rules." Knight Sorrow raised his right hand, and the blood-Chilan evil vanquisher spear fell into the holster on his back. "Captain, please instruct me." Zhuodong returned to the front of the sergeants of the First Army. "Good. I, Knight Sorrow, will accept any challenge when I'm in the First Army. If I lose, I'll leave. But when I'm the captain, you have to obey my orders," Knight Sorrow said. Zhuodong and the other sergeants cupped their hands and took the order. This was the rule in every army and corps. I've led a team in the past, and I've been through realm wars in worldlets and realm wars. What I can do is that I, Knight Sorrow, will be in front of you when you fight and behind you when you retreat. As for the Brotherhood, we don't have it now. But on the battlefield, I'll abide by the Brotherhood rule and live and die with you." After Yi Shang said this, he looked at Tian Yu and Long Jin, because they were his brothers who had walked over with him. Zhuodong and the other sergeants were silent for a while. Then they took out their weapons and patted their chests. "Long Jin, Tian Yu, I'm glad that you two have been with me all this time. Today, we'll start a new journey. In order to keep up with the pace of the team, you two will be responsible for training. If you can't achieve the tacit understanding of the god-slaying squad, you'll have to leave," Knight Sorrow said, looking at Long Jin and Tian Yu. Tian Yu and Long Jin cupped their hands at Knight Sorrow. They had already made arrangements. After Knight Sorrow became the captain of the First Army, they would be in charge of training. "Do you feel uncomfortable being trained by two newcomers? Do you think they're not qualified? Then I'll tell you now. They've been in countless battles with my team, and they've never left any of their brothers behind. They've been seriously injured in battles, but they've never been killed. As the captain, my first priority is to ensure that you don't lose your lives," Yi Shan shouted again. Zhuodong and the other sergeants didn't say anything, because Knight Sorrow's words were the rule and the order. "Knight Sorrow, you'll have to deal with the recruitment and personnel arrangement." The Grand Elder was very satisfied with today's result. The sergeants of the First Army were unruly, but they couldn't mess with Knight Sorrow. "Okay, Zhuodong, take the sergeants of the First Army and walk in front of me in order," Knight Sorrow said. Zhuodong didn't understand, but he had to obey the order. He took the sergeants of the First Army and walked in front of Knight Sorrow in order. When they reached the 30th person, Knight Sorrow stretched out his right hand and said, "You, get out." The man pointed at by Knight Sorrow was stunned and looked at Knight Sorrow. "You're not suitable to be in my team." Yi Shan threw out a few words. "Why can't I be in the First Army?" the man asked. "A sergeant should have an indomitable spirit and momentum. Some of the dozens of people who walked past me just now stared at me, and some curled their lips, but their spirit was stable and their eyes were firm. What about you? You're evasive and cowardly, so I've decided to remove you." Knight Sorrow stated the reason why he didn't want this person. "Get out of here." Suddenly, a dozen sergeants shouted at the man. "Zhuodong, what's the matter?" The Grand Elder took a few steps forward. His name is Ma Lei, and he was arranged to be in the First Army by a sect elder. But he's not suitable to be in the First Army. I'm going to report this matter to the new captain after he takes office." Zhuodong bowed to the Grand Elder and then cupped his hands to Knight Sorrow. The Grand Elder didn't say anything, but his face darkened. It was shameful for Ma Lei to be in the First Army because of his connections. "Ma Lei, right? I don't care about your past misdeeds. I'm the captain of the First Army, and I call the shots here. Go back to where you came from." Knight Sorrow looked at Malay and said. He didn't need to know the details. Malay didn't have the spirit of the other sergeants in the First Army, so he didn't want him. Malay's face darkened, and he stepped back. He didn't dare to challenge Knight Sorrow. Seriously? Pu Luo rubbed his chin. Next, the soldiers of the First Army continued to walk in front of Yishang. At this time, everyone held their heads high. They were worried that if their auras were not strong enough, they would be chased away by Yishang. That would be embarrassing. The sergeants of the First Army went back to their original positions. Everything was peaceful, and Knight Sorrow didn't kick them out. When they reached the last one, Knight Sorrow said again, "You're not suitable either. Go back to where you came from." Chapter 1860. Knight Sorrow was silent. He found that the First Army had done a lot of things, including embezzlement. Knight Sorrow, these troubles should have been solved before you came, but it's not too late to solve them now. We've verified that the quartermaster embezzled, Lu Qi said. What happened? How do you plan to deal with it? Knight Sorrow looked at Lu Qi. He embezzled the resources of the First Army and sent them to his family. Do you have any opinion on how to deal with it? Lu Qi looked at Knight Sorrow. The Heaven Wasteland Sergeants exist to protect the stability of the 100 tribes in the Celestial Realm. He embezzled the military supplies and is a burden. He and his family deserve to die, Knight Sorrow said. What he did has nothing to do with his family, right? We shouldn't implicate the innocent, Bai Zizhan of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan said. Innocent? He sent the resources back to his family. Didn't his family know that the resources were embezzled? He embezzled the resources of the sergeants. Doesn't he deserve to die? Knight Sorrow looked at Bai Zizhan. Bai Zizhan looked at Knight Sorrow and didn't say anything. She knew that Knight Sorrow's words made sense. Lu Qi looked at Knight Sorrow and didn't say anything. He wanted to know what Knight Sorrow would say. Grand Elder, Lu Qi, are you waiting for me to deal with it? Knight Sorrow looked at the Grand Elder and Lu Qi and asked. You're the one who found it. Why are you troubling others instead of dealing with it? Lu Qi said. Knight Sorrow looked at Lu Qi. He knew that Lu Qi was throwing the blame to others. After thinking for a while, Knight Sorrow looked at Zhuodong and asked, Zhuodong, how much did he embezzle? Do you have a figure? I can't tell you the exact number. When he was filling our spirit gathering array with Saint Spirit stones, he did some dirty work and cut corners. In total, there are about 1.5 million Saint Spirit stones missing, Zhuodong said. 1.5 million? That's too uncertain. 3 million. I don't care which family you're from, but you have to deliver 3 million Saint Spirit stones to the First Territory's encampment within 7 days. If you don't, I'll wipe out your family. As for the punishment, it's not up to me. Since you're no longer a sergeant of the First Army, the Commandment Elder might spare you. After hearing Zhuodong's words, Knight Sorrow pointed at the quartermaster and made his decision. Leader, if he doesn't spit it out, our humanitarian league has nothing to do recently. We'll take care of it, Reese shouted. 7 latest unspecified currency * chapter. Supra, cough. What do you mean by being lenient? Return the 3 million, and then go to the discipline hall to receive your punishment. If you don't go, when I catch you, it won't be a punishment. After hearing Knight Sorrow's words, Lu Qi coughed. Knight Sorrow had also thrown him a problem, so he had to deal with it. Then it's settled. Also, those who want to join the First Territory should line up in front of me. If you feel that you're lacking in humanity and confidence, don't come up. It's too embarrassing if you can't pass, Knight Sorrow said to the group of imperial emperors behind the Patriarch of the 100 Tribes. It is indeed very frightening, but I haven't done anything shameful. I'll just go. Hu Han stepped forward and walked past Yishang. Does the First Territory selection depend on fate? It's child's play. Yu Kuan snorted. What the hell are you talking about? Does our leader need you to judge him? Great Demon King was unhappy when he heard Yukuan belittling Night Sorrow. He had been dissatisfied with Yukuan for a long time. Grand Elder, I'm the leader of the First Territory. I can make the decision, right? Night Sorrow looked at the Grand Elder. The Grand Elder glanced at Yukuan and nodded at Night Sorrow. He was a little dissatisfied. It was too late to establish Night Sorrow's prestige. Yukuan shouldn't be a hindrance. Even if there was something wrong, it should be communicated after the event. Then, Night Sorrow continued to select people. Fortunately, the Imperial Emperors who joined the First Territory were confident in themselves and weren't eliminated. The number of soldiers in the First Territory increased to 260 people. Looking at the 260 people, Night Sorrow nodded and announced the rules. After 3 months, some people would be eliminated. Those who weren't suitable would be sent back to wherever they came from. The Grand Elder and the others also left because Night Sorrow handled the matters of the First Territory very well. No, Lu Qi didn't leave. He wanted to observe for a while. The shopkeeper's discipline was to control the situation and see if there were any troublemakers. The few people from the Humanitarian League didn't leave either. They were more interested in Night Sorrow's management of the First Territory. Night Sorrow looked at the soldiers of the First Territory and told Long Jin and Tianyu that the first thing to do was to strengthen the battle formation training. They had to completely master the joint attack formation. Captain, if I may offend you by asking, aren't joint attack formations all mediocre cultivators who cultivate in order to defeat the strong as the weak? Hu Han opened his mouth and said. If you have an idea, just say it. There's no need to offend. Why do all the forces have to form an army? Why don't they just gather cultivators before the battle? There's a fundamental difference between the two. The advantage of a soldier is cooperation. It seems that none of you understand this. Let's demonstrate it first. Long Jin, Tianyu, and I will fight twice as many opponents as us. You can see the effect, Night Sorrow said. At this time, White Meng Meng of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan raised her hand. She meant that Night Sorrow was strong and he could fight several opponents alone. Night Sorrow shook his head helplessly. We're here to prove the power of the battle formation, not to win. Don't use your doppelgangers or fighting skills. Just fight with ordinary attacks. Okay. If we lose, we won't be bullied. Swadong nodded. Vice Captain, if you want to bully someone, you have to be able to bully them first. Long Jin stepped onto the stage as soon as he finished speaking. Yi Shang and Tianyu followed suit. As soon as Night Sorrow and the other two went up, Swadong rushed to the arena with 5 sergeants of the First Territory of the Heaven Wasteland Army. One of them was the sergeant who had been beaten down by Night Sorrow. Although Swadong had not fought with Long Jin and Tianyu recently, the battle formation was created by Night Sorrow, so it was not a problem for the 3 of them to perform the 3 talents formation together. While Long Jin was blocking, Night Sorrow and Tianyu attacked. The sergeants of the First Territory were hit by Night Sorrow's Blood Kylan evil-slaying spear and were sent flying. After Night Sorrow attacked, he turned to defense. Long Jin began to stab fiercely with his wave saber. As long as he did not stab the vital parts of the opponent's dantian, he would not be killed. Tianyu, who had transformed into a human form, used his long sword to hit people's faces. Night Sorrow and the other 2 changed their attack and defense very quickly. Swadong and the other 2 sergeants could fight one-on-one, but they could not break the defense of Night Sorrow and the other 2's joint attack formation. Brothers, let's go. Swadong shouted. His 5 sergeants had all been beaten. If he did not shout, the battle would be over. Hearing Swadong's shout, a group of sergeants rushed to the arena. However, no one broke the rules and no one used doppelgangers. They all held their sabers in reverse and waved at Night Sorrow and the other 2 with the backs of their sabers. Brother Shursan, we can't do this. They are a group of animals. Tianyu shouted. There were no rookies in the First Territory. Night Sorrow and the other 2 could not withstand the attacks of so many sergeants. Tianyu was almost crippled. Chapter 1861. Let's rush out. I'll be the main attacker. You guys defend and bring up the rear. Yi Shang was also helpless. The sergeants of the First Army were determined to defeat the three of them. There were too many people involved, 3 layers inside and 3 layers outside. Knight Sorrow brandished his blood-Kirin evil-slaying spear and smashed the sergeants of the First Army who were in his way. Some of the sergeants of the First Army were sent flying, while others were sent flying. The arena was full of people who were sent flying. Knight Sorrow and the other 2 were also hit. Even a tiger could not resist a pack of wolves. Fortunately, Knight Sorrow and the other 2 were able to defend themselves. Knight Sorrow's body was at the level of an imperial emperor, while Long Jin and Tianyu were divine beasts. Therefore, it was not a problem for them to be hit several times. After a while, Knight Sorrow and the other 2 rushed out of the arena. Zhuodong stopped the sergeants of the First Army who were about to chase after them. This is the real battlefield. The 3 of them have broken out of the encirclement. Few of our brothers can stand up. Bastard! Who hit my eye? Come out! Tianyu turned around and cursed. He had a black eye. No one knew who had punched him. The sergeants of the First Army did not say anything. Some of them could not help laughing. Tianyu stood there majestically, but his black eye was very funny. You don't follow the rules. How many people did you send? 60? 80? Long Jin was also dissatisfied. The goal of war is to defeat the opponent. Who cares about the number of people? Flower without words said. That's right. The goal of war is to win. It's good to win. Although the 3 of us are a little embarrassed, you didn't take advantage of us. In the end, we won. Knight Sorrow tidied up his robe. Assemble! Zhuodong shouted. Hearing Zhuodong's shout, the sergeants, whether they were beaten or crippled, lined up neatly. You have seen the effect of the combined attack formation. It can increase the chance of survival on the battlefield. We are soldiers. Dying on the battlefield is our fate. But we are also sons and fathers. If we can live, no one is willing to fall. From today onwards, all of you will receive Long Jin and Tianyu's guidance in the cultivation of formations. If you fail or are unwilling to learn, just let me know and I will respectfully escort you out of the First Army's encampment, Knight Sorrow said. Yes. Zhuodong and the others roared. Dismissed. I have to say, you guys are really unlucky. Knight Sorrow rubbed his left shoulder. He had also been hit a few times. After that, Knight Sorrow left the martial arts practice field. After returning to the mansion, Knight Sorrow meditated and circulated his vitality. Then, he went to the hall and spoke to the people from the Humanitarian League. The first territory has been accepted. Those guys are not bad, Pu Luo said. They are really shameless. So many people are ganging up on the 3 of them, Yu Zhu said. It's nothing. It's true. Even I want to slap them a few times, the Great Demon King said as he tossed the gold brick in his hand. Knight Sorrow thought it was a good thing. It was also a way to communicate and lay the foundation for future cooperation. After chatting with the people from the Humanitarian League for a while, Knight Sorrow arrived at the encampment of the First Army. At the martial arts practice field, Long Jin and Tianyu were talking about the essentials of the combined attack formation. They also emphasized the concept of blocking attacks. Everyone, believe in one thing. It's not wrong to leave your back to your brothers. If you want to block attacks for others, so will others. Taking the initiative to block attacks may result in injuries. It's much better than your brothers being killed. Exchanging injuries for the lives of your brothers, exchanging injuries for the lives of your opponents. This is cooperation in battle. Remember, living and dying together is not an empty promise. Looking at the soldiers of the First Army, Yi Shang opened his mouth and said a few words. Watching the sergeants of the First Army begin to practice, Knight Sorrow went to the small martial arts practice field in the corner of the encampment. He still needed to perfect the 3 new unique skills he had learned. Lu Qi left. He could see that the first army had gained its soul. While Yi Shang was speaking, he was completely silent. No one dared to refute him. Regardless of their background, even if they were proud divine beasts, no one dared to disagree. This was prestige. When night fell, Long Jin and Tianyu finished teaching the combined attack formation of the first army and announced that they were going to rest. At this time, Zhuo Dong and a few other people went to Night Sorrow's side and watched Night Sorrow practice his spear skills. What's the matter? Is there anything wrong? Night Sorrow asked after putting away his spear. Captain, we used to have the best martial arts practice field in the first army. But after the old captain left, the martial arts practice field was taken away by the second army. I fought with them twice, but I was no match for them. Since we couldn't start a war, we couldn't get it back, Zhuo Dong said. They took the first army's territory? Night Sorrow looked at Zhuo Dong in surprise. Yes, I was no match for them, but I couldn't keep looking for trouble. Otherwise, the reputation of the first army would be tarnished, Zhuo Dong said. It's nothing. Just take it back. Brothers, you should hurry up and practice the combined attack formation. We may enter the transmigration battlefield. If you're not strong enough, I'd rather go there alone than take you with me. You'll die there, Night Sorrow said. I understand. Brothers of the first army are all proud. They approve of the combined attack formation, but they are too embarrassed to say it, Zhuo Dong said. Okay, I'll ask for the information of the second army tomorrow morning, Night Sorrow said and left. Long Jin took out a jar of wine and threw it to Tianyu. We'll have fun tomorrow. It's fun to bully us. Can we drink? Zhuo Dong looked at Long Jin and asked. Who told us we can't drink? Did the captain say that? Long Jin looked at Zhuo Dong and asked. Then a squad leader told him that all the commanders of the Heaven Wasteland Army abstained from drinking. The captain of the first army has the final say. He didn't say you can't drink. You can do it if you want. Do you know why we're willing to follow the captain? Because we can follow our hearts and we won't be bullied, Tianyu said. After a night's rest, Night Sorrow arrived at the encampment of the first army. Zhuo Dong was waiting for him in the commander-in-chief's office with a man. The man Zhuo Dong brought was a spy from the first army. He was also a scout during the war. He brought the information about the second army. Night Sorrow found that the captain of the second army was highly praised. He was invincible under the Emperor realm. 9-headed lion? What race is that? After reading the introduction, Night Sorrow returned the information to the scout. He has a mutated bloodline. He's really strong and arrogant, Zhuo Dong said. Let's go and make trouble. Night Sorrow thought for a while and said. The sergeants of the first army were very efficient. They gathered in a short while. Chapter 1862. Go now? Zhuo Dong was stunned. He had thought that Night Sorrow would wait for a while before making this decision. We live for the sake of happiness. Don't you feel uncomfortable holding back your anger? Regardless of whether we can defeat them or not, at least we have the courage to fight, Night Sorrow said. It was not the first time that Night Sorrow had led an army, so he knew the importance of momentum. An army without momentum was like a sheep that could not be led. With momentum, it did not matter if the army was not strong enough. Strength could be improved, but momentum was the foundation. Go. After a while, Night Sorrow led the sergeants of the first army to a large martial arts practice field, or rather, to be exact, a high-end station. After the sergeants of the first army entered, they were intercepted by another group of people. As soon as the conflict broke out, a burly man appeared. Zhuo Dong, are you still not convinced? Do you expect your new captain, who took office yesterday, to avenge you? The burly man looked at Zhuo Dong and said. This is the encampment and the martial arts practice field of the First Legion. If you want to take it, I can't protect it. Of course, I have to inform the captain. Also, let me tell you, Ju-yi, the First Legion won't let go of this territory. Even if we lose, we will take it back. Swa Dong said. Haha. You want to admit defeat without a fight? Your courage is commendable. The sergeants of the Second Army burst into laughter. They were not convinced by the First Army's decision. Different ranks meant different honors. Is it funny? Knight Sorrow walked out with a smile. The nine-headed lion, Ju-yi, raised his arm to stop the sergeants of the Second Army from laughing. Sergeants are more important than sergeants. You sneered at our brothers in the Heaven Wasteland Army, which makes me look down on you. Besides, it's okay if you can keep this station. If you can't, you won't be able to face others in the future. Knight Sorrow looked at the sergeants of the Second Army with a smile. Knight Sorrow was right. The sergeants of the Second Army had to look down on the sergeants of the First Army. If they could not keep this station, they would be disgraced in the future. You're the first vanguard this time. A billion years ago, I was still very weak, so I was not qualified to compete for the position of the first vanguard. This time, I can participate, but I am not willing to give up my original team. The other captains are the same, so you, as the first vanguard, have no sense of superiority in front of me and the other captains, Ju-yi said. Very impressive. You belittled me, the number one vanguard, to be worthless with just one sentence. But it doesn't matter. I don't care about other people's opinions. As long as the sergeants of the First Army approve of me, that's enough. Also, since I'm the leader of the First Army, it's only natural for me to seek justice for the First Army. Are you going to let me have this encampment or not? Knight Sorrow looked at Ju-yi. His words were gentle at the beginning, but when he reached the last sentence, his battle intent rippled in all directions. At this time, the Grand Elder, Emperor Tang, the 7 patriarchs, and Qin Chenjie arrived. They were the first to know that there was a conflict here. After bowing to the Grand Elder and the others, Ju-yi turned to Knight Sorrow and said, "This is the best encampment for the Heaven Wasteland Army. Whoever wants to stay here has to speak with strength. The bigger fist is the reason. You don't have the strength, so if we let you have it, you won't be embarrassed to stay here." Well said. You're so righteous in robbing. But you're also right. Everything depends on strength. The bigger fist is the reason. Today, I'll see if your reason is strong enough. Yi Shang walked a few steps and arrived at the training field in the middle of the encampment. You're asking our leader if his reason is strong enough? You're too funny. A leader of the Second Army said with a laugh. The other sergeants also looked at Knight Sorrow with contempt. I've said that you don't have a good attitude. Then I'll talk to you about this later. Ju-yi, since we're talking with strength, how do you plan to fight? Knight Sorrow stared at the sergeants of the Second Army and then looked at Ju-yi. Ju-yi's body flashed and landed on the arena. Then he took out a spear that was as thick as an ordinary person's arm and pointed it at Knight Sorrow. You're overestimating yourself. From beginning to end, Knight Sorrow and Ju-yi did not say anything to the Grand Elder and the others. In the army, it was a tradition to speak with strength. If you couldn't beat your opponent, you would be looked down upon. Knight Sorrow disdained to do so, and so did Ju-yi. Pu Luo, who came with the Grand Elder and the others, was very angry at Ju-yi's comment, because Ju-yi's words were too arrogant. You can go down now. Ju-yi's body rose into the air, and his arms swung the 6-foot-long spear toward Knight Sorrow. He was a 9-headed lion and was good at strength, so he planned to defeat Knight Sorrow. Knight Sorrow's back shook, and the blood-Kirin evil-slaying spear fell into his hand. Then he shook his arm and pulled it back into the air. Knight Sorrow was not afraid of anyone in a head-on fight. If Ju-yi wanted to attack, he would naturally take it. With a loud explosion, Knight Sorrow took 2 steps back, and Ju-yi was also sent flying back to his original position. Knight Sorrow, who had taken 2 steps back, did not give Ju-yi a chance to attack again. He used the void step and rushed in front of Ju-yi, thrusting out the blood-Kirin evil-slaying spear. He used the Void Extreme Kill, but he did not directly use his lost skill. Zhu Yi was very surprised that he did not gain the upper hand in a head-on clash. The human race's body was weak, and Night Sorrow's body was stronger than his. This was not what he expected. While he was surprised, Zhu Yi released his domain to support himself. Then, he thrusted his spear against Night Sorrow's blood-Kirin evil-slaying spear. With the collision of energy, Zhu Yi was shaken back again. Night Sorrow's blood-Kirin evil-slaying spear had its own compressed domain, so Zhu Yi's domain had no effect and was directly torn apart. Night Sorrow found that after Zhu Yi released his domain, the spear's effect was not as good as the first spear. Therefore, he released his domain as well. Then, he stretched out his left hand and sent a desolate nirvana palm towards Zhu Yi. At the same time, he used the blood-Kirin evil-slaying spear to cast the true dragon destruction art. Zhu Yi's left hand punched out twice, scattering the energy of the desolate nirvana palm. Then, he punched to the side and released the control of the desolate nirvana palm. But at this time, Night Sorrow's true dragon destruction art arrived. At this time, Zhu Yi could not use his full strength and could only block horizontally. Night Sorrow did not choose to fight Zhu Yi head-on. Instead, he used the space-time realm. His body flashed and landed beside Zhu Yi. The blood-Kirin evil-slaying spear's shaft naturally smashed into Zhu Yi's chest, sending him flying and falling towards the arena. You want to talk with strength? Then I will show you my strength today. Night Sorrow used the void step again and chased after Zhu Yi. You dare to come to our side? A sergeant from the Second Army drew his sword and slashed at Night Sorrow. I just said that I don't like your face. Now, I will teach you a lesson. Night Sorrow used the space-time realm and his body became blurry as he entered an independent space, dodging the sergeant's sword. Then, he appeared again and struck the sergeant's chest with his spear, smashing his chest and sending his body flying. Chapter 1863. With Night Sorrow's space-time realm, his body could switch between the real world and the independent space. This was the power of a top-level defense technique. As long as someone blocked his path to attack Zhu Yi, Night Sorrow would attack with his spear and directly injure them, some in the chest, some in the face. I wanted to save your face, but since you don't want it, I won't be polite either. Night Sorrow's voice came from the tumbling shadows. The sergeants of the First Army were stunned. Night Sorrow was too powerful at this time. It was like he was fighting a group of people alone. You ganged up on our captain, go die. Long Jin and Tianyu were angry. They raised their weapons and were about to fight. However, they were stopped by Pu Luo, who shook his head. His voice sounded in their spirit sea. He promised that Night Sorrow would not be at a disadvantage and that they would not fight. If both sides started a group fight, it would not be good for the reputation and the elders would punish them. Zhu Yi was furious, but Night Sorrow did not fight with him. He defended himself with the space-time realm and stabbed the blood-Kirin evil-slaying spear at him. He had a secret technique, but he could not use it in front of so many people. Not to mention whether he could hurt Night Sorrow, the sergeants of the Second Army would suffer first. Seeing Night Sorrow was invincible, some sergeants of the Second Army did not dare to go forward. If they went forward, they would be beaten. If Night Sorrow swung the blood-Kirin evil-slaying spear at their heads, it would not break their heads, but their faces would be deformed. You're not strong enough, but you're acting like you're going to bite me. Come on. Zhu Yi dodged quickly, and Yi Shang was too lazy to chase after him. He directly entered the ranks of the Second Army and started fighting. Enough, Night Sorrow, stop. The Grand Elder shouted. It was meaningless to continue the fight. The momentum of the First Army had risen. If the fight continued, the confidence of the Second Army would be completely destroyed. Night Sorrow's body flickered twice, and he went out of the fight and landed on the arena. K/forever free W/ look at Xiao O's words, solving the problem is our goal. There's no point in fighting anymore, the Grand Elder said. Then I'll listen to the Grand Elder. Soldiers of the Second Army, get out of here. Sergeants of the First Army, listen up. If any sergeants of the Second Army enter this encampment, break their legs and throw them out. I will bear the consequences. Knight Sorrow ordered the sergeants of the First Army. Yes. The soldiers of the First Army were now in high spirits because they had a domineering captain. Listen up. I'm not trying to make you hate me, but I'm warning you. Whoever dares to offend the First Army and despise the sergeants of the First Army will face the consequences. Zhuodong, pack up and move in. Knight Sorrow glanced at the crowd outside the encampment and nodded to Zhuodong. Zhu Yi left with the people of the second team. The winner was the king, and the loser was the bandit. He had nothing to say since he had lost. Go buy some wine. Since it's such a good thing, let's celebrate tonight, Long Jin said to a captain named Dan Yang. How dare you drink in the encampment? Yu Kuan said unhappily. You can't talk to me. If you have any problems, go to our captain. Long Jin didn't even look at Yu Kuan because he didn't like this old guy. You can't talk to me either. I'm not the captain of the First Army because of you. Besides, we're sergeants who protect the celestial realm. What's wrong with drinking wine when we're tired from training? Contributing to the celestial realm is the right thing to do. If we delay the war, it won't be too late for the elders to punish us. Knight Sorrow looked at Yu Kuan and refuted him directly. He knew that Yu Kuan's wrong command almost caused the Devil King and Lin Piaomiao's misfortune. It was Pu Luo who saved them. The Great Elder waved his hand and left with his men. What he needed was an army with combat power. As for character, he didn't mind. He had an army that was obedient, but what was the use of having a combat power like Mianyang? After the First Army took over the encampment, more than 260 people moved in. When they saw Knight Sorrow, they took the initiative to salute him. Knight Sorrow's strength was recognized and respected. At night, Knight Sorrow returned to his new residence. Pu Luo, the Devil King, and the others were all there. Very good, very impressive. Who can challenge you and the First Army now? Lin Piaomiao said with a smile. But we've offended them. Knight Sorrow shook his head. Although he didn't want to, he had to offend them. A kind person would be bullied by others. It doesn't matter. We'll deal with whoever comes looking for trouble. Who are we afraid of? Yu Kuan, that old bastard, tried to show off again. The Devil King's face was full of murderous intent. Last time, he had lost a lot of his men, which was a hurdle he couldn't get over. At this time, in the new encampment of the Second Army, Commander Xiang Hua was cursing. The Second Army was his men. Xiang Hua was the commander of the Second, Third, and Fourth Army. The Second Army was defeated, which made him lose face. There were 31 armies in the Heaven Wasteland Army. Other than the First Army, the other 3 armies were unified and were under the command of one commander. Other than the First Army and the First Army, there was no ranking. When the Devil King arrived at the First Army, his men were taken over by Fan Tian. Xiang Hua was very angry, but he couldn't vent it. Some emperors didn't know about Knight Sorrow's situation, but he knew. He couldn't get back at him. After repeatedly warning Zhu Yi not to provoke Knight Sorrow, Xiang Hua left. The other commanders of the Heaven Wasteland Army also sternly warned their men not to provoke Knight Sorrow and the First Army. Piaomiao, Devil King, the First Army doesn't look very strong. Why is it the First Army? Knight Sorrow asked, puzzled. The First Army is in an awkward situation. The former captain and a few other captains broke through to the emperor level and left the First Army. Last time, 3 emperors left at once, so their strength dropped. They are the First Army. Another reason is their bravery. The other 30 armies are full, but when the First Army isn't, they don't take a step back. In every war, they use blood to defend the honor and dignity of the First Army. Today, you beat up the soldiers of the Second Army. Why didn't the Grand Elder and the 7 elders say anything? Because they also feel sorry for the First Army. Lin Piaomiao said. They are brave. I will treat them well. Knight Sorrow nodded. Thank you for your kind words, Alliance Master Knight. I, Tang Ke, thank you. A man brought a few people to the entrance of Knight Sorrow's residence. Before the announcement, his voice was heard. Knight Sorrow and the others arrived at the entrance of the residence and saw 4 people, 1 woman and 3 men. The leader was a thin man. Knight Sorrow, this is the former leader of the First Army, Tang Quebec. He is now the special envoy of the Council of Elders. Lin Piaomiao introduced. After greeting Tang Ke, Knight Sorrow looked at the woman. He knew her. She was Elder Chiu of the God Devil Castle in the eastern region. Elder Chiu. Knight Sorrow cupped his hands at Elder Chiu. Chapter 1864. Elder Chiu, you're too kind. I'll do whatever I can. Knight Sorrow invited Tang Ke and the others into his residence. Yi Shang could understand how Tang Ke, Elder Chiu, and the others felt because he had brothers. His relationship with the members of the God-slaying squad was a reflection of Tang Ke and the others. After sitting down, Tang Ke said some sentimental things. He didn't want to leave the First Army, but he had to leave once he reached the Emperor realm. He had communicated with the Elders Association and hoped to stay, but it didn't work out. He also told the Elders Association to disband the First Army for the sake of peace, but it didn't work out either. We're relieved now that you're in the First Army, Elder Chiu said again. Others might not know about Knight Sorrow, but she did. She had seen some information about Knight Sorrow from Elder Nalan and had sent people to investigate. Therefore, she knew about the situation of Knight Sorrow's team. The Elders Association has arranged for other captains to take over. Because we were worried, we tried our best and didn't let them take over. Of course, there are deaths in war, but we don't want to see our brothers in the First Army sacrifice too much, even if their glory is lost in the long river of history. Glory might be important to others, but we want our brothers to stay alive, another man said. Words from the bottom of his heart. Tang Ke and the others spoke from the bottom of their hearts. After chatting with Knight Sorrow for a while, Tang Ke and the others left. They have deep feelings for the First Army. No matter where they go, they can't let go, Lin Piaomiao said. Yi Shang nodded. He understood this very well. Knight Sorrow, what kind of movement skill did you use today, or should I say, a defensive lost art? The Great Demon King asked. When I was in the space of infinite desolation, I learned a lost art called Spacetime Realm based on the performance of the soul-body lost art. It's quite effective. Knight Sorrow explained the Spacetime Realm. It's not just not bad. This skill is heaven-defying. However, because its attributes don't match, I can only admire it. The Great Demon King had a very high opinion of Knight Sorrow's skill. In a battle, if you wanted to kill your enemy, you had to first protect yourself. Knight Sorrow's spacetime realm was almost invincible among those of the same level. Even if there were experts who could attack through the space barrier, the attack power would be greatly reduced, and the threat would not be much. You guys won't be able to cultivate in the spacetime realm, but there are still people who can cultivate it. Knight Sorrow explained the soul defense secret technique he had developed to everyone present. Everyone present was a veteran of the Humanitarian League. Knight Sorrow hoped that everyone would become stronger. 0% Alliance Master, do you know that absolute arts are inheritances, and inheritances are usually only accessible to the core members of the clan or sect? Yu Zhu looked at Knight Sorrow and said. Seeing Knight Sorrow pass on the secret technique to everyone without hesitation, Yu Zhu was very touched. In fact, it wasn't just Yu Zhu. The others were the same. We are friends, and we created the Humanitarian League together. So, I hope to see you guys become stronger. No matter when I call for tea, you guys will be there. That is the most important thing. Night Sorrow smiled and said. What is the name of this skill? Pu Luo asked. I only researched it. I didn't give it a name. Night Sorrow shook his head. After hearing Night Sorrow's words, Pu Luo, Ruisi, and the others gave Night Sorrow a look of disdain. Who didn't immediately give it a mighty name after mastering an absolute art? Then, the few of them discussed and named this absolute art, Soul Wave. This was because the principle of this absolute art was to use soul power to create a defense. It sounded simple, but if one didn't know how to use it, they wouldn't be able to practice it. Without a way to condense soul power, the soul power would disperse after leaving the immortal sea without any special ability. The great demon king sighed. League leader, since you are so generous, I can't be stingy. I've cultivated 2 absolute arts. Forget about the saber art, it's useless to tell you guys. However, the soul attack absolute art is pretty good. If it weren't for my strong soul defense and soul defense treasures, would have been killed in the infinite space. The soul attack absolute art that the great demon king cultivated was an illusion and an attack. Its power was directly proportional to his soul power. After chatting for a while, Night Sorrow felt that the Humanitarian League should have a legacy. He suggested that if possible, they should write down some of their cultivation experiences and leave them in the Humanitarian League for future generations to learn. You can think about it, but you have to be careful. Once our absolute art is exposed to the enemy, there will be some unnecessary trouble. We might even lose, Pu Luo said. It's my fault. After hearing Pu Luo's words, Night Sorrow felt that he hadn't thought about it thoroughly enough. Second tier, it's not a big problem to take out second tier battle skills that you don't use much. First tier absolute arts are not good enough. If we take them out, we have to teach them. The Humanitarian League is a combination of many forces. There are many drawbacks. Lin Piaomiao supported Pu Luo. Night Sorrow's idea was good, but there were too many implications. After chatting for a while, they went their separate ways. Night Sorrow and the Great Demon King's soul attack and defense absolute arts had to be learned. Knowing the absolute art was one thing, and whether or not they could cultivate it was another. Night Sorrow also received some inspiration. His soul extinguishing slash had produced 3 crescent blades. Although the attack was more powerful, it wasn't focused enough. If he could combine the 3 crescent blades into one, his killing power would increase by a lot. As soon as he thought of this, Night Sorrow shattered the 2 crescent blades. Then, he merged the energy into the remaining crescent blade. In addition, he merged some shocking scenes he had seen into the crescent blade. The soul attack that the Great Demon King had learned in Infinite Desolation was to merge negative scenes with soul power to affect the opponent's consciousness. Night Sorrow felt that negative scenes might not have as much impact as shocking scenes. He incorporated the scene of the Yellow Springs River he had seen in the Land of Evil Execution into the soul-extinguishing Crescent Moon Blade. Cultivating an absolute art wasn't something that could be done overnight. Night Sorrow's clone cultivated while his original body in Yellow Springs River advanced the Soul Destruction Slash. The Soul Destruction Slash was a high-level battle skill. It wasn't at the level of an absolute art. If he merged it with the absolute art that the Great Demon King had taught him, it would become an absolute art with its own characteristics. Night Sorrow's original body was in seclusion, not in an epiphany. He could communicate with his clone at any time. Using the soul power of an immortal emperor, Night Sorrow used his understanding of the void, destruction, and spacetime attributes to master the law of death in a short time. He began to comprehend the will of heaven and earth. Chapter 1865. During normal cultivation, it was unavoidable for one to reach a bottleneck. If one was stuck, it would take a long time. This was the process for a cultivator to achieve something from nothing. However, it was different if one had a foundation. Night Sorrow cultivated the death attribute and advanced directly. He didn't need to return to his original state to enter the Saint King realm. While comprehending the death attribute, Knight Sorrow's original body was also researching a new soul attack lost art. He didn't need many lost arts. It was enough to have one that could allow him to dominate in a field. Feeling that he needed time to cultivate this lost art, Knight Sorrow's doppelganger entered the 8-dragon cauldron to accelerate time. After cultivating for more than 2 days in the real world, Knight Sorrow finished cultivating the soul extinguishing slash. The 3 crescent blades of the soul extinguishing slash became one, but its toughness and attack power had greatly increased. Knight Sorrow also blended into the scene of the flowing Yellow Springs River. After coming out of seclusion, Knight Sorrow and Lin Piaomiao exchanged pointers. Lin Piaomiao was shocked because the illusion brought by Knight Sorrow's soul attack was very strong. The scene was the Yellow Spring River, but it gave people the feeling of reincarnation. It caused a great shock to the soul and spirit. It could even be said to be immersed in it. Why didn't I have the same idea? I made a mistake. Lin Piaomiao shook her head. She was also cultivating a lost art. She had integrated her sword essence into the soul attack. Now that it had taken shape, it couldn't be changed. It was also a sudden idea. I didn't expect the effect to be so good, Knight Sorrow said with a smile. This sudden idea is amazing. One lost art can be cultivated by 100 people and have 100 different effects. Lin Piaomiao was a little emotional because Knight Sorrow's path was different from others. He had his own style. After chatting with Lin Piaomiao for a while, Knight Sorrow arrived at the encampment of the First Army. Look at the original 8x chapter A/LQ at this moment in the encampment of the First Army, the soldiers were cultivating in full swing. They were cultivating the combined attack formation. The scene of Knight Sorrow, Long Jin, and Tianyu using the combined attack formation and rampaging through the First Army was deeply imprinted in the minds of the sergeants of the First Army. After watching for a while, Knight Sorrow called Zhuodong over. All the sergeants of the First Army are emperors. Why do they still use emperors' weapons? Knight Sorrow took a closer look and found that apart from a few members, most of them were using emperor armaments. Yes. The best weapon is at the imperial level, Zhuodong said. He didn't understand why Knight Sorrow would ask that. To do a good job, one must first sharpen his tools. I still have some time, so come one by one. I'll upgrade your weapons, Knight Sorrow said. Captain, are you a refiner? Zhuodong asked in surprise. Due to the limited energy, many accomplished practitioners devoted themselves to cultivation. Good. Come on. Knight Sorrow put the 8-dragon cauldron beside the martial arts practice field and nodded to Zhuodong. Knight Sorrow didn't study alchemy these days. Instead, he had been studying how to upgrade his weapons. Therefore, his refining skills were at the imperial level. It was not easy to upgrade a weapon. One needed to understand the original formation structure of the weapon. However, Knight Sorrow had studied Yan Wushuang's unparalleled formation, which covered many kinds of formation ultimates. Therefore, it was not difficult to upgrade some weapons. Moreover, the sergeants of the First Army were using standard weapons with similar internal formations. After cultivating every day, Knight Sorrow would stay in the encampment of the First Army to upgrade weapons according to each person's needs. Long Jin, Captain, is so powerful. He can upgrade weapons according to each person's needs. His refining skills are profound. Zhuodong looked at the 8-dragon cauldron beside the martial arts practice field and said to Long Jin with emotion. Of course. Captain is not only skilled in refining weapons, but also in alchemy and formations. However, upgrading weapons in large quantities is very stressful. Long Jin shook his head. He knew Knight Sorrow well and knew that Knight Sorrow would spare no effort for his brothers. I told Captain to take it slow. However, he said that he didn't know when the war would break out. With the help of the combined attack formation and advanced weapons, our combat strength will be improved and our brothers will be able to come back alive, Zhuodong said. He thought of Tang Ke, who had done the same thing. It took Knight Sorrow 2 months to upgrade the weapons and armors of all the sergeants of the First Army while cultivating. Knight Sorrow had been busy for several years in the accelerated time. Seeing the sergeants of the First Army wearing new armors and holding new weapons, Knight Sorrow was quite successful. When Knight Sorrow nodded with satisfaction, the Grand Elder came to Knight Sorrow and handed him a storage ring. It cost a lot of materials to upgrade these weapons and armors. You can't pay for it. We will fight side by side in the future, so it's not a big deal. Knight Sorrow didn't take the storage ring. Take it. You have to pay for materials as well as effort. The Celestial Wasteland City treats every cultivator who works hard for the Celestial Realm well. The Grand Elder handed the storage ring to Knight Sorrow. Then Knight Sorrow has to take it. Knight Sorrow said with a smile. During this period of time, his small warehouse had indeed consumed a lot of resources. Upgrading weapons and armors required supplementary materials. Knight Sorrow and the Grand Elder talked for a while and asked about the reincarnation battlefield. It still needs time. It's a headache to choose who to send in. But after you join the Celestial Wasteland Army, it won't be a problem. The Grand Elder looked at Knight Sorrow with a smile because Knight Sorrow had really solved the problem. Only emperors could enter the reincarnation battlefield, and there wouldn't be many people. This made the arrangement of personnel a problem for the Assembly of Elders. If the First Army arranged personnel, the others wouldn't be convinced. If the other armies arranged personnel, it would also be difficult to convince them. If the First Army arranged personnel from the other armies, it would be a problem for them to cooperate in battle. Now, under the leadership of Knight Sorrow, the First Army smashed the Second Army's place. They were so domineering that none of the other armies dared to challenge the First Army. How many people will enter? Knight Sorrow asked. 30 people. With the help of the Celestial Wasteland Tower, only about 30 people can enter. So you have to figure out the arrangement. After the Grand Elder left, he didn't have a problem, but Knight Sorrow had a problem. The First Army had 260 people, but only 30 people were allowed to enter. How should he arrange them? Knight Sorrow rubbed his head and called Swadong over. Captain, what's the matter? Swadong was very excited. The First Army was completely different from the First Army before, so he was in high spirits. I'll give you a mission. Once the reincarnation battlefield opens, the number of people who can enter is limited. Choose 30 people. As for who will enter, the Great Elder will let us choose. You can make the arrangements. After Yi Shang finished speaking, he stood up and left. Chapter 1866. After thinking for a while, Swadong gathered all the sergeants of the First Army. Before we get down to business, I'd like to say a few words. The First Army used to be glorious. Under the leadership of Captain Tang, we fought bloody battles and won one war after another. Then, we ushered in a low point. We were very depressed. This depression lasted until Captain Yi came. Captain Knight showed me the glory of the future. In my eyes, all the former and later members are my brothers who can share life and death with me, Swadong said while looking at the sergeants. Swadong's words brought silence. I just wanted to prove that I have no selfish motives. Now let's get down to business. The transmigration battlefield is about to open, and only 30 of us can enter it. We've worked hard step by step, and you may not have any elders in your family. If you have any elders, please stay. If you have wives and children, please stay too. Being alive is always a responsibility. Squad leaders, you can communicate with each other and choose the right ones. Swadong said the requirement of 30 people. After disbanding, Long Jin and Tianyu went to the Commander-in-Chief's office. Vice Captain, we've been guiding you to practice the combined attack formation since we came here, so we don't have any squads to take us in. Swadong invited Long Jin and Tianyu to sit down and said, you two can cooperate well with Captain Knight, so there's no problem. Tianyu patted his chest and said, I thought we'd have to fight for it. Swadong smiled. He knew that Long Jin and Tianyu came from noble families, but they were very sociable in the team and didn't have any eccentricities. He appreciated them very much. On this day, the first army was in chaos. Because of the limited number of people, the 10 squads began to compare notes with each other to choose the people who would join the first army. A day later, the list of names was released. There were also a few who joined later, and they were all people who had participated in the battle for the position of the first vanguard. Their own strength was strong enough. Hu Han, Hua Wuyan, Bai Mengmeng, and Bai Lingling had all entered the list. Knowing that Zhuo Dong had handled the matter well, Yi Shang was very satisfied. This was a tricky matter for him. In addition, Knight Sorrow gave an order for the selected members to cultivate the joint attack formation alone. He also told Long Jin and Tianyu to cultivate the joint attack formation no matter how many people there were so that they could form the formation at any time. Inside the sacrificial tower of the magic imperial city, Mo Yutian and Mo Tianji had met. The 100 races of the celestial realm knew that the reincarnation battlefield was about to appear. Naturally, they also knew that they were selecting the best of the best. Heavenly concubine, with the help of the Saint Demon Altar, I can open up a space-time tunnel that can send about 30 people, Mo Yutian said. The demon ancestor's weapon, the Sky Desolation War Halberd, was left in the reincarnation battlefield. This time, we must get it back. I will stop cultivating so that we can enter, Mo Tianji said. Heavenly concubine, have you really decided? This is risky, and I don't want you to take this risk. Mo Yutian looked at Mo Tianji, his deep eyes filled with worry. I have decided. The reincarnation battlefield was the place where the 100 races, led by our demon wing clan and the human race, fought for supremacy in the previous reincarnation cycle. This time, it is also a small-scale battle for Providence. The demon ancestor was severely injured and fell into a deep sleep after coming back. His weapon is related to the demon wing clan's Providence. Mo Tianji was very determined. Zhantian will come out of seclusion soon. Discuss this with him. Mo Yutian said and left. The 3 giants of the demon wing clan were Mo Tianji, Mo Yutian, and Mo Zhantian. However, not many people in the Demon Wing clan knew of Mo Zhantian's existence. He had been cultivating in seclusion. Mo Tianji had fused most of the pure silver woman's body with her. Her cultivation had increased to the 6 stars Emperor realm, which was the peak of the Imperial Emperor realm. Although she was only at the peak of the Imperial Emperor realm, Mo Tianji was confident that she could kill an Imperial Emperor realm expert. Translator, Nyoibo Studio Editor. Nyoibo Studio. Mo Tianji stopped cultivating. Once she reached the Imperial Emperor realm, she wouldn't have the chance to enter the reincarnation battlefield. Every day, other than cultivating new absolute arts, Knight Sorrow would watch the soldiers of the First Army cultivate. If there were any areas where they were lacking, Knight Sorrow would give them pointers. After cultivating so many absolute arts, Knight Sorrow had a deep understanding of the combination of attributes. Hence, he had no problem giving pointers to others. Time passed in a tense atmosphere. Knight Sorrow was now full of confidence. He had a new harvest. When he comprehended the death attribute, he found an opportunity to break through in the destruction attribute. He entered the 5 stars Emperor realm and reached the intermediate Imperial Emperor realm. Knight Sorrow's highest achievement was the spacetime attribute. He had grasped 57% of the grand momentum of heaven and earth. He was only 30% away from entering the 6 stars Emperor realm. Although this 30% seemed easy, it required time. Knight Sorrow didn't have the time now because he was in a hurry. He didn't have the time to calm down and cultivate. On this night Sorrow went to the city walls of the desolate Sky City. He looked at the Nirvana Ocean and the Nirvana Storm in a daze. What are you thinking about? You are already an Imperial Emperor's subordinate. How can you be so absent-minded? King Yowu appeared beside Knight Sorrow. Martial uncle. Why are you here? Knight Sorrow asked in surprise. King Yowu usually didn't leave Yowu Mountain. I came over to take a look. Your spirit is good. King Yowu looked at Knight Sorrow and said. I'm sorry to have worried you. I'm doing well. I improved my cultivation in the desolate sky space. However, I didn't enter the advanced Imperial Emperor realm. Night Sorrow said. You have cultivated for too short a time. If you were given 10,000 years, or even 1,000 years, your achievements would reach a new height. Throughout the celestial realm, countless cultivators don't lack time. What they lack is inspiration. However, you are the opposite. King Yowu said with some emotion. King Yowu told Yi Shang that he had talked with the city master of Tianhuang City and the Great Patriarch. The three of them had thought about whether they should ask Yi Shang to put everything aside for the time being, including the reincarnation battlefield, and focus on improving his cultivation. However, in the end, they felt that this was all fate. Since it happened, it was destined. King Yowu came to ask for Night Sorrow's opinion. After all, King Yowu was the closest to Night Sorrow. Martial uncle, I know that this idea is to protect me. However, since the brothers of the First Army are entering, I have no reason to not enter. Furthermore, I am confident. Night Sorrow said. It's very helpless. Under such circumstances, the three of us are powerless. We can only rely on cultivators below the Imperial Emperor realm in the reincarnation battlefield. Remember, be careful. Otherwise, I won't be able to answer to your master. When you depart, I won't be sending you off. King Yowu patted Night Sorrow's shoulder and turned to leave. You're tuning into the A Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.